Good morning. Thank you for attending the California Board of Registered Nursing Board meeting. I will now call this board meeting to order on Thursday, June 25th at 9 a.m. I am, sorry, echoes, excuse me. Okay, so I am Neelu Patel. I am currently the Vice President of the board. President Trujillo's term has concluded, and until the board elects a new president, I will preside over today's meeting in my role as Vice President. So I'll call a roll and to establish a quorum. Vice President Neelu Patel here. Board Member Nguyen.
Tricia Nguyen.
Present.
I was, present. Yeah. Okay.
Or appointed.
Yeah. Okay. Or appointed, whatever. You have both. It's a, okay.
Okay. And then Board Member Lawler.
David Lawler, present.
Board Member Granowitz.
Granowitz, present. Public board member.
Board Member Dominguez.
Jovita Dominguez, present.
Great. And our BRN staff, we have our Executive Officer Melby.
Thank you. I'm Loretta Melby, or Lori. I'm the board's executive officer appointed by the board.
And our board counsel, please.
Good morning. Reza Pejurhesh, board legal counsel.
Thank you. And so before we move on, I'm going to take some liberty at this moment. Dolores Trujillo is in the attendees. I'm going to ask to have her elevated really quick. She was our board president for the last almost 6 years, maybe even longer. And we want to give her a proper kind of send off and thank you. So if we can have her elevated board moderator, that would be perfect. And then I'll turn it over to our board. Her term did expire June 1. And so she wasn't able to make it to the final board meeting for us to say goodbye and thank her for her service. Okay. Does board members, anybody have any comments or?
Let me just jump to it real quick and say we've established a quorum. We do have some missing members, unfortunately, but we have a quorum established. And Board Member Nguyen, would you like to say something on behalf of Board Member Trujillo?
Yes, thank you very much. Well, I wanted to thank Dolores very much for her 4 years of really hard work on this board. I'm sorry, more than 4 years. I've worked with her for 4 years. I've always really appreciated her leadership, her willingness to make really tough decisions, and her commitment to excellence in the field of nursing. But more than that, I want to, just thank her so much for her friendship and really building a nice camaraderie in the board. And Dolores, will miss you very much. So thank you for all you've done.
Thank you, Tricia. That means a lot. I'm going to miss all of you. I am missing all of you. So, and I wish to thank the board for the opportunity to serve. I have learned so much and grown so much from each of you, including Loretta Melby as executive officer and Reza Pejurhesh as board counsel. Also, I have learned a lot from the board BRN staff, including our BRN moderator. I wish you all good luck and good fortune in your future endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you, President Trujillo. That is so lovely. Thank you for presiding over this BRN for the last 6 years. You've just provided this BRN with amazing structure, and I am glad to be able to be a part of this board that is moving, what seems to be in an amazing, a different and a better direction, in my opinion. So I appreciate your leadership. I have loved learning from you, and I wish you good fortune as you move on to your next endeavor. Anybody else on the board would like to say anything? Go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to say, outside of the professional work that she has done here with us, when I first started, obviously, as a public member, my inexperience and ignorance was sort of cured by asking her questions, and whether it was on text, whatever time of day, she was more than willing to be thoughtful and helpful, and has gotten me in a very comfortable place here on the board. So I cannot thank her enough for her mentorship and friendship.
Okay, can I go now? It's Vicky.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I agree with my colleagues, but I also want to comment on your kindness. because you were always really kind, particularly as I felt like I was flailing around at times trying to get up to speed because there's just so much to know. And I always felt like you were patient with a public member, that I could trust your judgment, that while you cared about protecting the public, you also had a deep well of knowledge and commitment to nursing and to also doing right by nurses. That was really inspiring, and I felt like I could really trust you to do that when I knew I didn't have that experience. God, I don't know why I'm getting emotional,
Me too.
but it's hard when you're coming into something and you don't know, well, you don't know you're from your, and you just made it all really comfortable, and you will really be missed, and I wish you well as you go forward. But I just also, all the traveling you did, I have no idea if people realize how much your heart and soul actually went into what you did, the time commitments, and how much you actually gave to your profession. You were really amazing, and you will really be missed, and I personally will miss you. Anyways,
Thank you, Vicky. That's beautiful. Thank you so much.
Dolores, this is your BRN moderator from Jen and I. Thank you for your patience. We grew with you, you grew with us, with all of the online, our WebExes. You were, you led the charge, and we all grew together. And yes, I want to say thank you. But I'm not going to go long because then I'll get emotional, and so yeah, we don't need that. But thank you, ma'am. And
You only have 2
good
minutes,
luck.
Mark.
Yeah, exactly. See? So good luck, ma'am, and thank you very much, and thank you for all the growth and all the help, and you helped us as much as we helped you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark.
Okay, and then Board Member Dominguez.
Dolores, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for your leadership. Sorry. I knew I was getting into something I had no idea. And thank you for all the education. And you were very patient with me. Thank you so much. And I hope that virtual flowers are allowed for the board. Definitely cannot give you an arrangement that you are deserving of.
Thank you, Jovita. Thank you. You know, I came on this board, and I'll make this under 2 minutes. I came onto this board in 2020, January 2020, which was, I can't even explain. What the world was going through, getting onto the board, what we went through, and I think as a board, all of us, we grew from that. The board was brand new, basically, at that time, and including our executive officer. And we just all grew together and helped each other out. And that experience, I will never, ever forget. And I will never, ever forget any of you. The last 2 weeks, I have truly missed working with all of you. And I will still be at the meetings, probably more in public comment. But thank you. Thank you so much for all that all of you did for me and worked with me and helped me grow. Thank you.
Thank you, President Trujillo. You are going to have difficult shoes to fill for sure. We appreciate your service, and I would like to say that I don't know what you're going to do with your free time, but we all know that you don't have any free time, even though you don't have this. So we wish you the best. Thank you again. Okay, we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is general instructions for the format of a teleconference. Bye.
Board moderator, can you remove Dolores from the panelist. Thank you. Sorry, guys. She's now officially a public member. Thank you.
Cheers to her. Okay, board moderator, please take it, provide instruction for general conference.
Whew. Okay, I'm sorry. Good morning. This is the BRN moderator. I will be moderating the meeting. To facilitate public comment, we will be utilizing the WebEx question and answer feature, now known as Slido. When the board reaches a point in the agenda at which public comment is appropriate, the question and answer feature will be turned on and members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by inserting the phrase, "I would like to make a comment," in the question box, which is typically in the lower right of your screen. I will then call on the individual and send the request to unmute their microphone. The individual should be able to unmute and make their comments. I will then proceed to the next member of the public who has a comment. I will also query our on-site location for comments as well. Please note that the question and answer feature is being used only as a means for members of the public to represent that they would like to make a verbal comment. When your turn comes, you'll be prompted to unmute. If your question can be answered, the board will respond accordingly. When making your comment, speak about anything you believe is important for the members to know. Please remember, board members cannot address any item not on the agenda. Items not in the agenda at that moment, items that you would like to add to a future meeting, or items that will be discussed later on the agenda will be discussed at their correct times during the meeting. I will provide a brief reminder of this approach at the start of each public comment item. Finally, when board members or BRN staff are not speaking, I would like to remind them to mute their microphone. If I detect background noise during the meeting as a result of unmuted microphones, I will mute your microphone automatically. Thank you.
Thank you, board moderator. And just a gentle reminder, we will be running this meeting as a meeting of public, for the public, with Badley King as a guiding role. Anybody on the board have any comments at the moment? We will open it up to public comment. That's agenda item 3.0 for items not on the agenda. Board moderator, please open up for public comment.
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment." Bobby Roy would like to make a comment. 1 second, please.
Good morning.
Good
Can you hear
morning.
me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Great. Thank you. My name is Bobby Roy, Chief Negotiator for SEIU Local 1000, and I'm here again today to follow up on previous comments related to the demeaning and repulsive pay practices for the RNs who perform the duties of the nursing education consultant for the BRN. This time, I want to advise the board of what the BRN leadership can do to make a difference and show these valuable nurses how much their knowledge and education is worth. While we've requested for a special salary adjustment at the negotiating table, we have yet to hear from the state. From CalHR, CalHR is telling us that they're reaching out to the DCA and the board. And it's unfortunate that Executive Officer Melby didn't mention this process at a previous meeting when board member Nguyen asked what the EO could do to assist with the situation. For background, compensation survey reports are published on the CalHR website. However, NECs have not been included on any of those surveys, which date back to 2013. Therefore, with no compensation analysis since prior to 2013, how out of proportion do you think that their pay scale is compared to other RNs? Fortunately, the Sunset report did reveal some of that. And also, CalHR has maintained a compensation request policy for many years, and despite frequent requests by NECs and this union for nursing leadership to submit the required documentation, they have failed to do so. This shows a lack of support and, quite frankly, a lack of respect for the NECs as professionals. The board needs to direct Executive Officer Melby or Chief Fisarens to explain the intent of the HR 1715 compensation request policy, as my time is limited. There are multiple criteria defined within the policy as to why it should be initiated, and more than 50% of those criteria have been met since 2022, when NECs first demanded competitive wages at the negotiations table. Additionally, while the BRN staff vacancies are currently deemed low Please consider the workload of a small department like the NECs. When there's one vacancy, that specialized work and responsibility must remain within the department, and therefore that workload has to be distributed among the remaining NECs. So instead of having 15 schools, they have 20 plus. Don't let the small numbers of vacancies illustrate a lesser need. This is work that has to be done by specially trained and licensed nurses. It can't be shifted, it can't be delegated to other departments or units. And current NECs are being tasked with more responsibilities and duties that have created an overwhelming workload and set them up for criticism of their work and failure to meet unacceptable deadlines, which ultimately puts the public at risk. Respect, protect, and pay our NECs. These are nurses working for the BRN who regulate the practice and therefore should have the ultimate respect for what they do, not just for the public, but for you all as board members. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Vice President Patel, there are no other public requests for comments on the WebEx. Do we have any in-person requests for comments in BRN HQ?
Thank you, moderator. We do not at the moment. And just a reminder, as the board cannot comment of items that are not on the agenda, we do take your comments wholeheartedly, and we will consider them for future agenda items as they become fit. Anybody on the board have any questions or comments? Okay.
One real
Yes.
quick. We are aware that this is a request. I have not received a specific reach out to be brought into the comments yet, but as a requirement with this position, as well as Ms. Pusaran's position, we are not allowed to have conversations about union bargaining negotiations, and we're not able to have those conversations with NECs or anybody else. We're pulled out of it specifically as required in law. And so we're not able to share that. We have tried to be as transparent as we possibly can without doing anything that we're not allowed to do also. We have put it in the sunset. I've been very vocal in board meetings. I used to be an NEC, and I agree that there is a huge salary deficit. And we are working with DCA as well as the BBNPT, who shares the classification, to try to make change. It is not unnoticed, and it's unfortunate that the perception is that it's not being worked on, because it is absolutely being worked on.
Can I make one other comment? This is Reza, Board Counsel. There was one thing in the comment that really jumped out at me. The entire comment was well received. It's been well received each time Mr. Roy has made the comment. However, to suggest that our executive officer has a lack of respect for the NECs is, to me, at best, uninformed, more likely just kind of some ludicrous hyperbole to advance this argument. Lori was an NEC herself. She works extremely closely with the NECs, who I perceive have great respect and appreciation for the work that she does, and including what she does to, address this issue. So I just wanted to address that one particular point that maybe wasn't intended to come across that way, but it was pretty explicit in calling out our EO for a lack of respect, which I just flatly disagree with. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Vice President Patel, may I close the window, please?
Yes, thank you, moderator.
Thank you.
Okay, now moving on to agenda item 4.0, which is review and possible action, approval of prior meeting minutes. May I get a motion for approval of prior meeting minutes from March 26th to 27th?
I move approval. That's Board Member Nguyen.
Perfect. Thank you, Board Member Nguyen. And just a gentle reminder to also state your name before making a motion, or thank you for doing that. And can I have a second, please?
Jovita Dominguez seconds.
Perfect. Thank you. Can we open it up for public comment, moderator?
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in the request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing in the question box, "I would like to make a comment." I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment." Vice President Patel, there are no public requests for comments on the WebEx. Do we have any requests for comments there in BRN HQ?
We do not. Thank you, moderator. You can close the window.
Thank you.
Board members, do you have any substantive changes that you would like to make to the meeting minutes? Okay, hearing no discussion, I'll go ahead and call a roll call vote. Vice President Patel votes yes. Member Nguyen?
Nguyen, yes.
Member Lawler?
Lawler, yes.
Member Dominguez?
Dominguez, yes.
Member Granowitz?
Granowitz, yes.
Okay, the motion passes. Thank you. The meeting minutes are approved. We'll move on to agenda item 5.0, discussion and possible action, election of a board president and vice president. And of course, as we mentioned, President Trujillo in her service has concluded. Let's see. Perfect. And I'll pass it over to Executive Officer Melby. Thank you.
So I actually think that the board election of board president, vice president 5.4. So we're going to go into 5.1 first, which is the executive officer report out. On our board meeting materials, you'll find that information on 5.1, sorry, starting on page 4, and it continues to page 5 with references to the various agenda items that has the more detailed information. So on that information that is here for you, and then what I'll do is just what my normal report out is going over the meetings and the business that I've done separate from public meetings here as part of the board. So as you guys are very much aware, we are in the middle of our sunset year. So I think I've met with more legislative staff and stakeholders than I can even begin to count. And so we're continuing to work with various stakeholders on the various issues that have been brought forth in our sunset. Lots and lots of meetings. So thank you, Marissa, for your assistance with that as she's tagging along with me in each one of them. We've attended several meetings with DCA as well as a new collaboration that is we're really excited about, which is the Board of Vocational Nursing and Psychiatric Technicians, the Board of Registered Nursing, as well as the Bureau of Private Post-Secondary Education. We asked to get all three of us together because we all do similar items when it comes to academic approvals and reviews. And so a lot of sessions in and still a lot of sessions to go, but we're working to kind of streamline that and get that process moving along. So very excited about that. That's kind of like our biggest highlight right now that we're kind of working through. Working a lot with CNS certified, clinical nurse specialist representatives as well. A lot of meetings with them to kind of go over what the current scope of practice is in California and where they're wanting to take it and look at it more on a national level. Lots of, meetings with NCSBN. I went to the NCSBN Executive Officer Conference that was held in Tennessee in June, where we met with all of the executive officers throughout the United States, as well as the 5 territories and including Canada, really kind of discussing a lot of the future processes with nursing. And that was very, very eye-opening with a lot of things that are coming up. And I think we'll have opportunity to discuss that further on in our agenda when we're talking about the DUI section and kind of what happened in Kansas. So just a lot of specific meetings, just kind of working through that. I won't kill you guys with the abundance of the listing that's going on there, but everything is still moving. Everything is in process. And we're looking forward to watching to see how our sunset bill progresses this year with all of the outreach and work that we've been doing. Any questions? Yes.
Thank you very much. So I remember the last sunset discussions. The legislators had some pretty strong opinions about how BRN should be working, and that kind of bubbled to the surface within the context of the sunset bill. Are you seeing those same kinds of issues coming up this time, or really strong opinions on how we're doing, or is it just kind of generally how are we, handling our workload?
This sunset process seems to be very different than the last process. I think they've had a chance to get to know me and get to work with Marissa as well. I do have amazing support this time through it, so that's fantastic. And I think with that relationship, things have improved tremendously. Additionally, we have done nonstop reach out and relationship building with all of our stakeholders. I mean, when I come in and report out the last 3 months of everybody that I've met with, thank God to Teams and Zoom, or I would have incredible amounts of jet lag. But being able to have those conversations and provide insight into the work that we do has been hands down probably the most important thing that we could have done leading up to this. There are still items that our stakeholders believe that we are not doing well or that we could do better. And there's still items that we have stakeholders that believe that we shouldn't be doing at all. And so that's always going to be the kind of friction there is how do you get not to deregulation, but right touch regulation. And what does that mean? So looking at our processes and seeing where can we take a lighter touch and where do we have to kind of stay strong at? And we're not always going to agree with that. So what we've done and with the assistance of Marissa is we've really kind of looked at a lot of our processes to say, where can we come to a compromise and where do we have to say, like, this is a non-negotiable, this is absolutely something that we do need. And I think with having those conversations in advance with the various stakeholders and explaining them, NEWAC has been amazing. We had we held a special session last year in NEWAC where we addressed a lot of the school issues and really tried to kind of explain how what we do in California affects reciprocity to the United States as well as international. And so making kind of a change without taking all of that into consideration could be detrimental. And those are things that I didn't know when I came in, even as an NEC, as Reza had said, even as when I was an NEC, those were things that I didn't have the awareness of until I got into the EO role. And then all the layers of the onion started to kind of peel back. And I was like, wow, there is a spider web. It does affect absolutely everything. You have to take everything into consideration when you do one thing right here. And so having those conversations, we've been involved with the legislative staff for hours, which is unique to this year. I don't know if it was something that was done historically with the other EOs, but with COVID and everything that was going on, I didn't experience that before. And so I'm really happy with the way the sunset is going. There's still language that's being worked out. We're still working with stakeholders. We don't have any draft language. We have a hearing on Tuesday that I'm attending, but we haven't got the language on that yet. But I know that they're working diligently on it. They're taking in all stakeholders' comments, even public comments that have been heard at the board. The legislative staff are addressing them. And so that's really exciting to see. So I feel good about it. Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you for being in lockstep. As the executive director just knows, that really close observation that I just jumped agenda items. And now we'll go back to agenda item 5.2. Thank you very much. Information and discussion only on the strategic plan and goal progression for the 2026 to 2030. Again, that's our executive officer, Melby. Thank you.
So I'm going to actually lockstep again and pause because that was an agenda item. So it is information only. So we do have to go to public comment. So board moderator, will you take us out to public comment, please, on agenda item 5.1?
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment." Board Vice President Patel, there are no public requests for comments on the WebEx. Do we have any in-person requests for comments in BRN HQ?
There doesn't appear to be here in HQ. Thank you. You can close that window. And that wraps up agenda item 5.1, Executive Officer Report, and we'll move on to agenda item 5.2, and that will be presented by our Executive Director, Melby. Thank you.
Thank you. So agenda item 5.2 is just a report out on our strategic plan, understanding that we are new. This is our first 6 months into this strategic plan. So it's 2026 and it goes through 2030. All of the yellow highlights is what is new this committee meeting from the last, or sorry, this board meeting from the last board meeting. So I will, actually, it looks like it's green on my screen, but I'm sure it's yellow to everybody else. And so starting on page 9, it just says that we're working with OIS to update the DCA license lookup design to easily identify license information in the qualification section. That is something that's been highlighted. We received emails as well on this, that it's really difficult to understand the various qualifiers on the DCA license lookup. This was specifically exacerbated when we started to approve the 104 and the 103 NPs as well as the faculty. And so it'll say like assistant instructor, OBPs, and it's all jumbled together. And then it does the same thing where it says 103 NP, 104 NP, psych, and everything. So it's really not clear. It's on there, so you're able to find it, but it's not clear at the employer level. So we are working to see what can be done to address the license lookup and make that more clear for our stakeholders. So that is in process. We've got the emails, we've received the reach out, and we're addressing that. We're moving to page 10. It talks about the RN renewal application was revised and streamlined. Really working, our applications are many, many pages long. And we're working to streamline that. We're working to make it more plain language. And we're looking to make sure that the citations that have been in there are current as well. So we did a big lift on the renewal application, and then we actually even made Reza join in on that. And he did a huge lift on our renewal application as well, checking all of our legal authority for that, because there was some comments we had received that maybe our applications weren't completely in alignment with our law, and he vetted that. And so now that has made it to, I think it released, is that correct, Matt? In this release? And so that will be a big improvement. Obviously, it's still Breeze, and so it's going to look the same and kind of function the same, but we're trying to streamline it as much as we possibly can. Down to page 12, it says that when we're addressing enforcement, it says we're updating and improving existing investigation reports to provide clear insight and support continuous improvements and growth. That has been very helpful. And then we'll move on to page 13, where it does say that we're collaborating with DCA and the other boards to develop training materials for DCA's Enforcement Academy to strengthen investigative knowledge and regulation compliance department-wide. That is something where our team, and I'll recognize Tim Bunter in the back and Nicole Bowles, they attended those. They provided amazing amounts of insight into that and has been asked to return. And so they will be leading the charge with that with DCA. And they have decided to extend this Enforcement Academy through next year as well. And we're actively trying to get our 100 enforcement and investigation people together and through that process too. So it'll be great to kind of bring all the boards and bureaus together and to learn from each other. I did touch on where I attended the Executive Office Leadership Summit, so I won't go into that more. And then we'll go down to page 15, and that is where we created and posted educational presentations for the probation overview and worksite monitor videos. That's a newer process that we just started implementing with our public information officer, Vinny, and working with enforcement, and we're trying to get more videos onto our website. That seems to be really something that our stakeholders, when they visit our website, want to see instead of reading it. So that's where probation and worksite monitors really taking the lead on that. So thank you guys. Down to page 17, just again, working with DCA on our new alternative to discipline vendor Premier. We did implement more consistent meetings with all the healing arts boards in there to try to make sure that we're in alignment, as well as ensuring that Premier is really coming up to speed with all of our rules and regulations. The difficult thing that we have with that is each one of the Healing Art boards, we have a similar uniform standards, but then we also have board specific issues. And so we have to make sure that we're in alignment with that. It makes it very difficult for the vendor. The one thing I do want to highlight is on page 18, and that says, when we're talking about our intervention program, we've seen the numbers of our intervention program decline. It exponentially declined from where it used to be, 5-10 years ago. And so we did a quick kind of about face. Previously, we heard a lot from our intervention participants where they said they felt like they were kind of forced into the intervention program or told that if you don't do this, you will get disciplined. So we kind of did a hands-off approach when we started hearing that, because we didn't want our RNs to feel like they were being coerced or pushed into anything. And with that, we believe that the information was just not getting out. So suggested by Shannon Johnson, who really took the lead on this. She's our chief of enforcement, and I support her in this in every way. And then Jaspreet, our program manager for intervention, they're doing personal call outs now to any person that is brought in through the enforcement area. They will receive a phone call from our executive leadership in enforcement and intervention, letting them know about the program and answering any questions that they might have, not telling them to do it, but letting them know that it's available and how it could serve them and benefit them. And so we are hopeful that we'll have more people choosing to join the intervention program because it is voluntary, because that's one of the things that we've always had this conversation about. If you're suffering from mental health or substance use disorder, you should not be in our enforcement program. You should be in our intervention program that can help you to get kind of control of your life again, manage any of that conditions that are afflicting you, and then become competent and return to work. And so that's really where we kind of sit as a board, so that it's non-disciplinary, but really getting that information out to them. And so we think that we'll see a change with this. And so fingers are crossed. Yes.
I just want to thank you for this work, because certainly when we were in the throes of all the difficulties we had, a year and a half ago, it was clear that people weren't being told how both programs worked, and, that they didn't have choices. So I really appreciate that hands-on approach and really giving people information so that they can make the right decision. So thank you for that.
Thank you. It is completely volunteer. And I think when we went kind of hands off and just kind of said, these are the paths we have, you choose, I think that choice was not clear. Yeah. So I fully support this. This was a suggestion brought completely from them. And I was like, that sounds amazing. Let's do this. So moving down to page 20, we have posted the CE Supervisor 1 position for recruitment. That is a big move. I cannot explain how big this is. We've had a CE research, continuing education and research unit that's been kind of vacant since my tenure here, and we've been working to do that. But there was, again, a supervising nursing education consultant position was the supervisor over that, and we cannot hire into that position. There's nobody that's qualified. There's nobody that's interested. We've been continuously recruiting, have not been able to do that. So we re-looked at that organizational structure, changed the posting, and we're going to try to get a different type of person in there to see what we could do to get that up and running. And so super hopeful with that. And that just repeats on page 21 as well as page 22 and 23. You can see how pivotal affects each one of those areas. And then we'll move down to page 25, where you can see that staff, as well as myself and all the NECs, did attend the California Association College of Nursing Spring Conference, as well as the California Organization of Associate Degree Nursing Spring Conference. And so those have been widely beneficial. That's where we can do a lot of conversation and Q&As with all of our program directors. Skipping down to 28 is a repeat. And then we'll move to page 29, where we're just kind of talking about the board sunset and updates on that and how we're kind of continuing to do our hearings and working with them. And then on page 30, we do share where we're working with the CNS and the CRNA advisory committees. We're getting regulations, and then our disciplinary guidelines for independent practice. You guys approved that through, and we did a 15-day comment period. We received no comments on that 15-day comment period, and that package is moving forward. And then again, just to repeat of kind of, because they kind of touch throughout all the areas. 31 is a repeat. 32 is we did a section 100 just to update the headers. Those are non-substantial changes to the regulations, so they don't require a board input and stuff because we're not doing any kind of change. It's usually formatting, adding a period, capitalizing a word that was missed, something to that effect. And then we're moving today. We'll have faculty approval language in here for you guys, the draft text to review. So that's on page 32 and 33. And then I mentioned earlier, page 35, where we're doing the BPPE, BRN, and BVNPT. And then social media report out is on 37. You can see the growth that we've had. And that is the end of just highlighting all the issues and stuff that we've been tackling as a team here in the last 3 months since our prior board meeting. Any questions?
Board Member Nguyen.
Thank you. I don't have a question, but I do want to say I'm totally impressed with what has been going on with, outreach. These numbers are quite impressive. We have noticed, in the last year that this program has not been as robust as it ought to be. So, just kudos for that. That's really great to see that kind of growth, because I think every time we touch nurses, we're doing our job. We're educating them and allowing them into the conversation. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, our public information officer is really working on this with Marissa. He reports directly to her. She is a woman of many hats. And so we're looking at next steps. Right now, we just do a lot of announcements on there, but we're going to do kind of like a did you know kind of comment section and going over scope of practice and board actions and stuff like that, just to make sure that people who don't attend these meetings can get it in a different manner as well.
Thank you for that concise report. We know it's a lot of work that you put into making sure that the strategic plan continues. Anybody else on the board have any questions or comments before we open it up to public comment? Okay, board moderator, please open to public comment.
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment." Vice President Patel, there are no public requests for comments on the WebEx. Do we have any in-person requests for comments there in BRN HQ?
We do not. You can go and close the window. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, now moving on to agenda item 5.3. This is information and discussion only. This presentation will be by the DCA Budget Office on the Registered Nurse Fund condition. Thank you.
Board moderator, are you able to elevate Suzanne? Perfect. And Luke, perfect. Thank you. Okay, Luke and Suzanne, we're ready for you to begin.
All right, good morning. Thank you. All right, my name is Luke Fitzgerald, and I'm a budget analyst with the DCA Budget Office. I'd like to thank the board and executive staff for allowing me a few minutes to present on agenda item 5.3, the board's expenditure and revenue projections and fund condition statement. First, I'm going to start with the board expenditures, which is going to be on the first page of your meeting materials. These projections are based on actual data through fiscal month 10, This report includes 2024-25 actual expenditures in green, as well as 2025-26 budgeted and projected expenditures in blue and orange, which also includes a budget allocation breakdown. And over this 2-year period, costs are a little bit higher. Looking at the totals at the bottom of the document, you'll see that the board had a beginning base budget of about $62.5 million and is projected to spend approximately $62.3 million, creating a reversion to the board's fund of approximately $1.2 million, or a percentage of about 1.93%. The next document we'll go over is going to be the board's revenue projections, which is on the next page of your materials. This report includes receipts collected through April, and I'll actually go further into these projections as we transition to the next slide. The last slide of your materials is going to be the board's fund condition statement. And as a quick reminder, we read this document from top to bottom and left to right. So the left column is going to be the board's prior year 2024-2025 actuals. It shows the board began 2024-25 with a beginning balance of just over $27.5 million. The board collected $80 million in revenues, with $22.6 million from initial license fees, about $52 million from license renewals, and just over $5.4 million from the issuance of citations, fines, delinquent fees, and other revenue. And then below that, you'll see the loan repayment from the general fund for $30 million. The board expended $61.8 million, which includes $4 million in direct draws to the fund for statewide pro rata and pension payments. The board ended 2024-25 with $75.8 million in reserve balance, or about 17 months in reserve. For the current year, 2025-26, the board projects revenues of $82.3 million, with just under $23 million projected from initial license fees, $54.4 million from renewal fees, and $4.9 million from the issuance of citations, fines, delinquent fees, and other revenue. The board's 2025-26 expenditures are based on fiscal month 10 projections, is approximately $53 million between authorized expenditures and direct draws to the fund, leaving the board with a fund balance of $104.9 million, or 18.7 months in reserve. And then budget year is based on the governor's budget, and budget year plus is based on the revised. The budget office will continue to monitor the board's revenue and expenditures and report back to the board with monthly expenditure projections as we continue to close fiscal months in the current fiscal year. And there's just a few final things to note on the board's fund condition. The fund condition is a snapshot in time. One of the main factors driving expenditure increases in future years is a result of personal service adjustments. These include general salary increases, as well as employee compensation and retirement rate adjustments. The budget office includes a conservative ongoing 3% increase to expenditures on the fund condition statement to account for these ongoing incremental adjustments. And then you'll also notice that revenue is projected steady in the out years. And then lastly, I'd like to note to the board that any future legislation or unanticipated events could result in the board's need for additional resources, which could create cost pressure on the fund. Again, thank you for allowing me the time to present at today's meeting, and I'll now be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that presentation. We have a board member, Wynn, here who has a question.
Thank you very much for this report. I really do appreciate you taking the time to walk us through these numbers. The number I always focus on is the reserve, and it has just been growing every quarter, every time you do this report over the last 4 years that I've been looking. And so my question is the question that I ask every time, what is a good number of months in reserve, and what is the average of other, DCA healing arts boards? Because I worry about this number growing and growing, and I wonder if we're, making a mistake somewhere where our fund just continues to grow.
Mm-hmm. Well, it does vary by board because different boards are different sizes, but typically we like to aim for between 12 and 16 months. We want usually at least a year. The statutory limit, however, is 24 months, and we have been in talks with board staff about addressing that.
Thank you very much. I'm going to keep my eye on this, and I hope that you will keep your eye on it also and report to us how things are going. Thank you.
They're definitely keeping an eye on it. They have meetings with me a lot on this. And so we are currently looking at our fee schedule. All of our revenue comes in, the entire budget for the board comes in. We're a special funded board, so it comes in by the fees that we collect. We have done a lot to work towards the budget in the previous years. You would not see it on this current strategic plan, but on the past strategic plans, we always, we looked at combining license types. So one of the applications that we combined in our last sunset was the nurse practitioner and the nurse practitioner furnishing, as well as the nurse midwife and the nurse midwife furnishing. That removed about $350 from that application for each one of them, because we're not charging an additional furnishing license fee. It's all encompassed. We noticed that we did not get that statutory requirement for the renewal. So we asked for that in this sunset as well, and that is in the current language. And so the renewal of that $350 will now be removed as well. So we'll have that go down. We also just last year, I believe it was, removed the renewal requirement for the public health nurse. It doesn't require anything additional to renew. It doesn't change the scope of practice. So it's a one and done. And so we removed that. That had a $350 per public health nurse renewal fee on that too. So we removed that. So there are many items that we are doing to try to combine and reduce fees. One of the items that we ran into when we first started looking at this with our fund was all of our fees were set at the statutory minimum. We could not drop them. So in our last sunset, we actually had them go through and remove all of the fee floors. There were a few that we missed, and so those were caught again this year, and we are asking to remove those fee floors that we had missed previously. Then COVID hit, and we went from having about 15,000 endorsement RNs coming into California on an annual basis. They doubled to 30 the first year, and then they increased again to about 40. And so we were used to getting in, 10 to 15,000 endorsement apps on an annual basis. And we all of a sudden for a year had like 30 and 40,000. That's revenue we had no idea what to do with. It came in and flooded us. And we're like, wait, what? What do we do with this? And then we had to get through that bubble, right? Because was that endorsement movement going to continue, or was that going to burst? Because what you didn't want to do is adjust every single item down, expecting this revenue to come in, because we still have 244 employees and a business to run and everything, and that's all special funded. Do we get out in front of that and start dropping fees and expecting it to continue, but then it doesn't? And so now we've seen it kind of right size. We're starting to trend back down, going back to pre-COVID numbers. And so we do expect that to kind of normalize soon. Now, the other thing that happened is we did a couple loans to the general fund because our fund was very robust at that point. They took $30,000. They did this, $30 million, sorry. When they return it with interest. Thank you. Darn it. That's great. But now there's interest coming in that we don't need right now with our fund condition. So there's a lot of kind of management that goes into looking at this fund and what we can do. The other thing that we are doing, we removed a lot of our fees from the schools. So we used to charge for anybody that was approved after 2013, I think they would get charged to do a continuing approval visit by our NECs. We removed that fee. They don't do it. Anybody that wanted to do like a major curriculum revision, we were charging them at $2,500. We removed those fees. So they only pay the $2,500 now if they're going to do an enrollment increase because of the amount of work that has to go into those requests. With the streamlining of the licensing, so our new grad is now a grad portal. So all of our deans and directors can sign in and click a button and they're done, and it's hands off essentially for our licensing staff. Right now, that's our next look, is because we do charge by staff time. So if it takes 15 minutes and and I'm not going to use the current terms right now, but it's at 15 minutes in an AGPA, that's a certain amount of money. And so if it now takes 30 minutes, then we would increase to accommodate that. But if it was 30 minutes and now it's 0, then we can work through that and just kind of do like the IT upgrades. So I do think that one of the first changes that we'll do is we are going to be doing a regulatory package to address 16 CCR 1417. That is all of our fees. And we're going to go through and just kind of right size them as much as we can with the technological improvements that we've made. And so I believe that the California grad, which is about 30,000 new applications each year, will drop exponentially because it's not as arduous as it used to be to process them through. And so we'll be able to match those. So there will be some movement in the next year, but we had to really wait like the COVID bubble to burst so we can right size this. And then we had to get statutory authority to back us up. So we've been constantly working on this, but you guys don't see the outcome yet because there's a lot of foundation that has to be laid before we can move forward to that.
Thank you for that explanation. I have to tell you that as a board member, it's nice to see that there is reserve and a hefty reserve, but of course we want to be fiscally responsible. Anybody else on the board have any comments or questions? Okay, let's go and take it out to public comment. Board moderator, please take it out to public comment.
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment." Jennifer Melendez would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. Jennifer, are you there?
Yes, I am.
There you go. Go for it.
Sorry, thank you.
Nope.
Thank you for allowing me the time. I've been a lifelong registered nurse since 2002. Wanted to find out with the revenue that it was generated with all of this post-COVID and everything, are you allowed to, we're all grateful and blessed because we're all in the healthcare field for a reason. That interest that's coming back for you, are you allowed to send that out to other schools that possibly need that for nurses that want to further their education?
So we do have a fund right now. So I believe it's $10 from every renewal cycle that gets transferred over to HCI. And HCI does offer a registered nursing education fund from our fees. And so we are already funding anybody that qualifies for that scholarship. It is given money, it's not payback money. And we do send that over already.
Oh, that's great to hear. Thank you. I mean, I know, like I said, as a professional, in the in the healthcare field, it's really greatly appreciated. That way, if we hear new nurses that say they want to further their education, but they don't know how to go about getting the necessary funds, that I can probably direct them to the HCI site and let them go on there and understand how the scholarship works. So that's great to hear. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Vice President Patel, there are no other public requests for comments on the WebEx. Do we have any in-person requests for comments in BRNHQ?
Not in person, thank you.
Thank you. Would you like me to close this window?
Yes, please, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to agenda item 5.0, which will be given by our Executive Director, Loretta Melby.
Thank you. So agenda item 5.0 is discussion and possible action regarding the election of board president and possible vice president. I'll explain what that means. So right now we do have a board president vacancy. We will make discussion and motions and recommendations around the board president. If by chance our vice president moves into that role, then we would go out for a vice president vote as well. However, if the president's vacancy is filled by somebody that that is not the vice president, then we will not do a vice president election at this point. So with that, I will kind of go through that process. So when we're doing appointments or voting for a board president, we are able to either self-nominate or have someone else nominate. It is not limited to a single nomination. We can take a couple nominations. Everybody on this board, we have 4 in person, 1 remote right now, could all say, I want to be a board president, and we would have to go through and have discussion on that and find out which one we want to put forward. Additionally, if a nomination is done, we do check with the board member that is nominated to make sure that's something that they actually have the time or want to do. We will not force this on anybody. So with that, I will open it up to nominations for anybody considering that they would want to either run for board president or be nominated or nominate a person for board president. Board Member Nguyen.
At this point, I would like to nominate David Lawler for board president. David was appointed 4 years ago. He's completed a full term already. He's kind of known for his hard work and diligence to board and committee work. I worked closely with David on the intervention committee issues, which we struggled with, for about 1.5 years. And I always really appreciated his common sense approach to, really a difficult situation. I think he has displayed leadership, and I think he would be a good board president.
So this is where we check with David. Is this something that you would even want to do?
Want? Yes, I will accept. Thank you.
This is Reza. Can I interrupt with a quick just side question? Normally, at my understanding, we typically elect a president and vice president for the year.
You're correct. Yes, we will do a vice president election. Correct.
What I'm getting at is it's normally we would elect a president towards the end of the year for the upcoming year.
We usually do it in June. Last year, we pushed that forward because of because of my evaluation and because of everything that had to be wrapped up. So there were special circumstances that we did it later last year.
The question I'm getting at is, are we electing for the remainder of a term or just a full one?
A full 1 year. We're getting back on the June schedule.
Got you. Okay.
Yes, June, July schedule, sorry.
This is Vicki Granowitz, and I'll second that. I think it's a great idea.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to either nominate themselves or nominate another member? We do have Katie Nayer, who's not present right now, and Allison Cormack, who is not present right now. The interesting thing is we do have only 7 members of our 9-member board, and we are public member heavy. So we have 4 public members and 3 nurses, and one of our nurses is already in an admin role, but could be nominated as well. Okay, so it looks like we have a motion for board president for David Lawler. He is a public member, and so we have one motion, which was Tricia. He accepted it, and Vicki Granowitz did a second. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And I'm going to go out on a limb here and nominate myself as board president. Not to, I want to say that I do agree with Board Member Nguyen's perspective about Board Member Lawler. I've appreciated your leadership and your guidance, and you've been on this board longer than I have, so I've learned a lot from you. However, I've also been in the vice president role and this administrative role for about 18 months now, attending all the meetings. So I want to throw my name in the hat and, just see how this rolls as a nurse member on this committee.
Thank you. So I don't have to ask Nilu whether or not you'll accept your recommendation. So that works out well. So we do have 2 nominations for the board president role. We do have our APRN nurse member who has been serving in a vice president role, Nilu Patel, who has nominated herself, as well as David Lawler, who has been nominated. Is there further discussion within the board? Okay, we do still have the motion and the second that stands. And so at that point, board moderator, can we go out to public comment, please?
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment."
This is Reza again. While we wait, I just wanted to clarify another procedural thing. So we've got two individuals who've been put forward. As far as the, Tricia's nomination, we can either, I think, go about it two ways. One is to treat Tricia's nomination as a motion and vote on that first, or to maybe conduct kind of a quasi informal election and see, which of the two members kind of takes more of the votes, and then have a motion to formally, designate that person as the president.
We're okay with whatever you think is best, Reza, procedurally.
I think personally, it makes a little more sense to do the second option. We'll take public comment, any further comments from the board, and then maybe do kind of a poll, if you will, see whether David or Nilu kind of seem to have more support, and then take a formal motion, as opposed to voting on one person first and seeing how that plays out, and then voting on the next person if the first motion didn't fail.
Yeah, definitely. Do you want to try to manage that, since I'm not quite sure exactly how to make that go? I'll turn that over to you, Reza. Thank you.
Sure. So for now, I'll be quiet. We'll take any public comment and then go from there.
Okay, Board EO Melody, there are no public requests for comments on the WebEx. Do we have any in-person requests for comments there in BRN HQ?
We do. We have one public comment here in HQ. Thank you.
Thank you.
And you could close the public comment session on the web.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, members. Monica Miller on behalf of the California Association of Nurse Anesthesiology. First and foremost, I want to say, love the tables. Please keep those. As someone who always brings my laptop, that's fantastic. So anyhow, not part of my public comment. So point of personal privilege, I was quite excited when I saw those. It's the little things. So thank you. So on behalf of CANA, I would like to, first of all, acknowledge that what a wonderful thing that you have here is that you have multiple candidates that could be fantastic at steering this board as we move into the next chapter, as we come through sunset, et cetera. That's a great gift. I wish we had that in every election, personally. But with that said, I think that having been on a number of boards myself throughout the years, both personally and professionally, I think it's so important if you have sort of a succession plan where you have people move up through because they learn the process. And I think that's part of having that. And I think that consistency is really important for a board to be able to function correctly, because as a vice chair, they learn what the chair is doing. They have the meetings one-on-one with the executive officer and your team, et cetera. So, but I do agree that Mr. Lawler is amazing and brings so much to the table. And I so appreciate when he makes comments. I love his perspective. I think he's very thoughtful in his engagement with the BRN, and would think it would be fantastic if we flipped it, personally, if I may, and had Ms. Patel as your president or your chair, and Mr. Lawler as your vice chair, because I think then you could learn the ropes. Again, I just think having that institutional memory and coming up through the ranks is so important from just my personal experience. So, and obviously I'm a little biased given this appointment and who it is, but I will just say we wholeheartedly support the appointment and election of Ms. Patel in this seat. So thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Do we have any other requests for comments?
There don't appear to be any further comments here in person.
Perfect. Okay, the WebEx is closed and we can close the in-person.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
So any other comments from board members? Okay, Vicky, I want to make sure
She nodded her head no.
Okay. I can barely see Vicky. It's just a tiny box and
Sorry, no
our
comment.
screen here. So sorry. Anyways, so as I said, I think the most logical way to do it is to just kind of do an informal poll, and whoever kind of takes the most votes there, we'll seek a motion to appoint that person to president and then go from there. So I'll go ahead and take a roll call vote. And I'll ask first for, I guess, those in favor of David Lawler for president, and then I'll ask for those in favor of Neelu Patel for president. So you can only vote once. I'll start with Vicky.
This is Vicky. I vote for Lawler.
Okay, Jovita.
I just want to say this is extremely hard. Once I was elected the first term, I would have definitely gone nursing, but Lawler has brought a lot of public statements, and Neelu, I really support you, but I feel like maybe having public and then and David has given me a lot of wisdom. So I vote for Lawler.
Okay, Neelu.
Patel for
Presume, okay. David?
I vote for David, me.
Okay, and Tricia?
Yeah, Tricia, I vote for David also, although Neelu, I do, completely appreciate how much knowledge and experience and integrity you bring to the board. So it is difficult for me also.
Okay.
Thank you.
So David's got more. So can we get a motion then to appoint David as board president?
So I move to appoint David Lawler as board president.
Okay.
This is Vicky. I'll second.
Okay, and then let's vote on that, and then we'll move on to VP. So roll call vote on that pending motion, and we've already done public comment. So this is just formality, but Vicky?
Yes.
No. Okay, Jovita?
Yes, Dominguez, yes.
Neelu?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
And Tricia?
Yes.
Okay, so David, congratulations.
Thank you.
So we'll next deal with vice president. Go ahead, Tricia.
Is it time for a motion for vice?
Well, so actually that kind of brings up, I don't know that we need to,
We can do another, we can do the 1 year.
the 1 year?
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll align them. I missed that, and that was my fault.
Okay,
So
that's a
we
good.
will need to either reconfirm or see if there's anybody else that would like to nominate themselves or nominate someone else for vice president, or if we would like to reconfirm Neelu Patel in the vice president role.
Dominguez would like to reaffirm Patel.
Go ahead.
David Lawler, I second.
Anyone else want to put themselves up for vice chair? Okay.
For those that didn't hear that, Jovita went, no.
Okay, so a motion then to reappoint Neelu.
Yes. So we have Trish, you made the motion. No, second.
Jovita
made
it, David second. Yeah.
Okay. So on this motion then, Vicky,
Yes.
We need to go to public comment on
do we?
vice president. We did not.
I
for
felt like
vice
it was all one
president.
agenda
Sorry.
item, but that's okay. Okay, moderator, would you take us to public comment?
For the nomination of extending Neelu Patel in her vice president role.
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate they would like to make a comment by typing in the question box, I would like to make a comment. I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, I would like to make a comment. Board Council Pejuhesh, there are no public requests for comments on the WebEx. Do we have any in-person requests for comments in VRN HQ?
Yes, we do.
Thank you.
board members, Monica Miller, again, on behalf of the California Association of Nurse Anesthesiology, CANA, we wholeheartedly support this reconfirmation of Ms. Patel in this role. And thank you for giving her that opportunity. We think that she's a great addition. So thank you.
I want to say thank you. It made it hard, but I so respect your comments from previous.
Thank you for your comment. Do we have any other requests for comments in BRNHQ?
There do not appear to be any other comments here. So I'll go ahead and take that one to a vote. Vicky?
Yes.
Okay, this is to appoint Nilu as vice president for
Yes.
another year. Jovita?
Dominguez, yes.
Nilu?
Patel, yes.
David?
Lawler, yes.
And Tricia?
Win, yes.
Okay, so that carries unanimously. Congratulations, Nilu, on another year. I'll hand it back out either Lori or
Really quick.
David, whoever wants to take
So
it.
just a procedural, typically the board president runs the meeting. However, David, if you don't feel ready, we can have asked that Nilu continue to finish this board meeting. Yes.
Please, yes.
Before you continue, because that's what I assumed, the vote would be for the next round, but if we're starting now, we can do that later. Thank you all very much for your support. Thank you for your very heartfelt comments. I will absolutely be leaning on you for your experience in this, like I did with Dolores, but I'm grateful, I'm humbled, and thank you for your willingness to let me use my leadership experience here with you all. I appreciate that. Onwards and upwards.
Thank you, President Lawler. I look forward to working with you as well. Thank you for the nomination for Vice President. I look forward to continuing on with that and the public support. Appreciate that. Okay, so we'll move on to agenda item 5.5, discussion and possible action. Appointment, appointment by board president of board members to committees and possible committee reassignment and approval by the board. Executive Officer Melby.
Okay, and I'll walk through this one. And so what we have a vacancy now, so I'm just pulling up, getting my ducks in a row here real quick. Sorry about this, guys. Was not quite prepared. And so with the vacancy of board member Trujillo, we do have some board member committee vacancies that we do need to address. And so I will pull those up and kind of walk you guys through it. So our administrative committee typically consists of president, vice president, and myself. So David Lawler will fall into that role. And so that will no longer be vacant. That will have David Lawler, Nilu Patel, and myself in the administrative committee. When it comes to the Enforcement Investigations Intervention Committee, right now there are 4 board members on that committee. So if we are looking to reassign, we could reassign from that committee. Education License Committee committee did have Dolores on that. It now is a vacant role and there's only 2 members there. So my suggestion to you guys to consider would be removing somebody, reassigning somebody from Enforcement Investigations and Intervention Committee to serve in the Education Licensing Committee. Legislative Committee, the chair is vacant. There is 3 people on that committee, so we don't need an additional person, but we should look to see who that chair is. However, that could be voted in the Legislative Committee when we do our next committee agenda, so that does not need to be decided here today. And Nursing Practice has 3 members on that. So my recommendation to you guys to consider, and Board President Lawler, who would be making this recommendation, would be to look at the makeup of the Enforcement Investigations Intervention Committee. There are 4 people, and see if one of those would be best suited to move towards the Education Licensing Committee, which would make 3 on enforcement, 3 in education licensing, 3 in legislative, and 3 in nurse practice, and we would be equal. You can.
Willing it to take any other suggestions, the logical idea in my head is I am on the enforcement committee, but with 23 years teaching in the education industry and 10 years in leadership at California Teachers Association, I would be happy to move to the education committee.
That makes sense to me.
I'll second that motion.
Yeah, put, as David said that you guys might not have heard, put the teacher in the teacher committee. Okay, so we'll need a motion and a second. I think
I'll make a motion.
you make a
And
motion.
I'll second it. Definitely. Thank you. Need the help.
Sorry.
Okay, so Nilu made the motion to accept the recommendation from our board president that he move from the education, from the Enforcement Intervention Investigations Committee to the Education Licensing Committee. And so Nilu was the first and then Jovita came in as the second. So board moderator, can you open up to public comment, please?
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment." Board EO Melby, there are no public requests for comments on the WebEx. Do we have any in-person requests for comments in BRNHQ?
No, there does not appear to be any comments here in HQ. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like me to close this window?
Yes, please. So we'll take this out to a board vote. Member Nguyen?
Yes.
Yes.
President Lawler?
Lawler, yes.
Vice President Patel?
Patel, yes.
Member Dominguez?
Dominguez, yes.
Member Granowitz?
Granowitz, yes.
Thank you. I will now hand this over, agenda item 5.6, to Nilu.
Agenda item 5.6, discussion and possible action regarding setting dates for 2027 board and committee meetings.
No, we're going to do that with the Ledge Committee. Yes.
Okay, and if you haven't heard that, we're going to appoint a chair for the Ledge Committee when we discuss Ledge Committee. So we are agenda item 5.6, meeting dates. Any board members have any discussion, comments?
This is Granowitz. I have a comment. I
thank you.
actually am on another board that meets at the same time as your board meetings. So the nursing practice would have to meet in the afternoon. But it could be on that same day, but it would have to be the afternoon.
We can do that, but I do want to kind of bring up a thing that I've been noticing, specifically with this meeting today, is last board committees and board meetings, we agreed to do a change where we did a lot of our committee work and then moved it as consent agendas to our board. Previously, we have done one-day committee meetings and two-day board meetings. Our last committee meeting, because of all the work that needs to be done in the committee meetings, went over and we had to move items and not hold a committee. We had to cancel Ledge Committee because we ran out of time. So I have a suggestion to put forward or to consider or to look at or have further discussion is looking at our committee meetings, making them 2 days, and then having our board meeting only 1 day. So the way that and Matt's going to murder me because Matt does the calendars, but as what happened just in our last committee meeting, we weren't able to hold Ledge because we ran out of time. Education Licensing Committee is a very robust committee. It takes hours and hours and hours, and a lot of times practice is as well because of the regulation packages and everything that goes through practice. So I would like the board to consider that we would do a ELC and practice committee day and then do a Ledge and EIIC committee day. Those can both be done virtually. We can establish quorum virtually, all that kind of stuff. There's not a lot of travel in. It's a cost savings as well for us. And then because most of those go through consent, we would then bring them into the board and admin, which is what we're doing right now, is our board heavy area, and then we do consent agenda items for the rest. Now, in the motion that will be on the screen, it's not on the screen, but in my thought process was to give the board, EO and the board president the ability to kind of alter days, which is what we've done in the past. And I just don't know, I didn't catch that on the motion. I apologize. So with that, if we get an agenda for the board that's heavy, we could schedule it 2 days. If we get a committee dates with not a lot on, we could shrink it to 1 day and kind of combine them, but it gives us flexibility. But I wanted you guys to look at that with the lens of potentially changing that process to a 2-day committee and a 1-day board.
I have a comment and a question. My comment is, I personally like the idea of the 2-day committee meeting schedule, even if one of the committees has a short agenda, because not often, but in previous years on certain agendas, the item you think should have taken 10 minutes took 2.5 hours, especially when there is outside presentations involved. Mm-hmm. So I still like the idea of the 2-day. I like that. That's a great idea, especially as long as education with its overwhelming agendas can take. Mm-hmm. My question is, I wonder, do you think 1 day for the board meeting will be enough because of what we're doing? Or should we stick with 2 days for now? Or is it done for cost saving as much as for timekeeping?
So if you saw our budget, there's not a lot of cost saving that's neat. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. Matt's going to murder me. Look at that.
We have reserves that board member Wynn would like.
We do have reserves, but again, that's not a guarantee, right? And so we're always looking at cost savings because we are spending California's money, right? That's reality. So we're always looking at cost savings. So with that, we can always look at the agenda for a 2-day board, especially board closed session takes hours sometimes, right? And so what you don't want to do is push that to the end of the day and have you guys here till 8 o'clock at night. So based on when we're developing the agenda, we would be able to let you guys know, schedule them out for 2 days, but we can then say, hey, it looks like we're only going to do a 1 day. We don't need a 2-day. And then we could agendize it for a single day. And we can do that when we're looking at the board agenda, so you guys would know. But in order to save room and to keep time on your calendars, we probably would do 2-day agenda, 2-day board. Yeah.
And then when looking.
So with this new adjustment, when looking at the committee meetings now, the day after, so your February 10 would be February 10 and 11.
I support it. Would it be possible to hold them like on a Thursday, or because I teach on Wednesday and as we all know, nationwide, it's hard to get instructors, and I definitely don't have a sub.
No, I hear that completely. So Jovita, you're on Ledge and on nurse practice.
And I have a problem
ELC and nurse practice, sorry.
This is Vicky, and I have a problem with Wednesday too.
And Wednesdays is nurse practice for you, right, Vicky?
Yeah.
So yeah, we could, if everything looks good with you guys, do nurse practice and ELC on Thursdays.
That works good for me.
And do EIIC and Ledge on Wednesdays, looking at the calendar moving forward for next year. And that solves Vicky's issue. ELC and nurse practice on Thursday. And enforcement and EI and Ledge on Wednesdays. And that solves, Jovita, your issue as well as Vicky's issue. Is that correct?
I believe I'm on Ledge too.
You're on Ledge too. Okay, you are. But yeah, Ledge.
But I support what you just said.
Okay.
I'm okay with that because that nurse practice, and I won't run into
Ledge, a lot of Ledge doesn't go our entire year sometimes, so they may be 1 or 2 meetings that aren't held, depending on that. And then Ledge sometimes is a very short meeting, so we can maybe get it to you before you have to go into work.
Yeah,
We can
that would
work
be
you on that schedule.
wonderful.
Yeah.
That works for all 3 members on the nurse practice committee. I'm clinical on Wednesdays, so that helps for me to be on Thursday. Yeah.
Perfect. Tricia.
I do know, I sit on 2 committees also, and those days can just be murder. Just sitting, somewhere and, the committees just go for hours and hours. So I would also be really in favor of splitting it up. But I do hope that you guys will not be bound to this schedule. And if we do have short days, that we combine them and just get it done on whichever day.
Yeah, we'll check availability of members and what our agendas are and stuff. Absolutely.
Even if it's 3 and 1, that would make the second day or the first day short.
Yeah, we'll look to that, but we'll plan out. Okay. Thank you, guys.
Okay, can I get a motion for that?
Well, other than that, we still need a motion in that, but I just want to make sure the dates that are proposed are good. We don't have vacations, anniversaries, children's events, holidays, because we've done that sometimes where we booked a meeting on a holiday and didn't realize it.
I did just look at my calendar and I'm, these days all work for me. I'm willing to make a motion, knowing that there's an asterisk and staff, will combine, when appropriate. So I move that we adopt the schedule as proposed.
David's got, President Lawler's got something.
I'm looking at April and October and I don't see numbers for dates. I see the month. It doesn't matter to me personally. I can take.
Those are advisory committee meetings and we haven't scheduled those with those advisory.
And you're not on advisory, so you're good.
Advisory.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And just to clarify, for the committee meetings, we're looking at February 10 and 11, May 12 and 13, August 4 and 5, and November 3 and 4.
With nurse practice being on 5 ideally, so that there's
First day, second day. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, the ELC nurse practice would be on the 11th, the 13th, the 5th, and the 4th.
And then we'll go ahead and continue the 2-day board meetings, but then cancel the second day as needed.
Okay.
That's good.
Okay, we have a motion and I'll go ahead and second. Can we open it up for public comment, please?
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing in the question box, "I would like to make a comment." I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment." Vice President Patel, there are no public requests for comments on the WebEx. Do we have any in-person requests for comments in BRNHQ?
We do not, thank you.
Thank you. Would you like me to close this window?
Yes, thank you. Okay, we have a first and a second. I'll go and take a roll call vote. Vice President Patel votes yes. President Lawler?
Yes, Lawler, yes.
Member Nguyen?
Nguyen, yes.
Member Dominguez?
Dominguez, yes.
And Member Granowitz?
Granowitz, yes.
Thank you. That motion carries unanimously. We will go ahead and take a 15-minute break before we move on to the next agenda item. So we will come back at 10:50. Thank you very much. A little more than 15. Okay, welcome back to our first day of the BRN board meeting, and we are back from our break. We will take a roll call vote to ensure that we establish a quorum. Vice President Patel here, President Lawler,
Lawler present.
Member Nguyen,
Nguyen, present.
Member Granowitz,
Granowitz, present.
and Member Dominguez.
Dominguez, present.
Fantastic. We have full attendance, and we'll move on to agenda item 6.0, BRN future priorities and proposals for review and possible action. And let's see, that's Should we move into 6.1 then? Yes. So then 6.1, discussion and possible action for possible changes to the board's approach to discipline based on driving under the influence and or similar conduct as part of the sunset review. I'll open it up for discussion.
Thank you. So I will set this here and just kind of talk about just a basic overview. And if Marissa, you want to join at the table in a minute, you're absolutely welcome to, but I'll get us started. So with this was an item that we identified as part of our sunset report. And then you can see that on the 2026 sunset report, page 91, but we also directly just did a copy paste and pulled it over into the materials starting on page 4 of the new packet here for future agenda, focus for our BRN. And so it was question 4.17, and it says, what are the 5 most common violations for which citations are issued? You can see that we've got convictions, DUIs, fingerprints, general unprofessional conduct, convictions, wet and reckless, and convictions other, which are not DUI, wet and reckless, domestic violence, battery, or theft. And so you can see the numbers. The conviction DUIs is 389. We've got the wet and reckless down at 25. And so the majority of the citations that have issued are DUI or alcohol, drug related kind of offenses. Then we look down on, again, the 2026 Sunset Report on page 142, where it says issue 10.12, discipline for driving under the influence. And we dedicated a section there and then really kind of talked about why we think that this is an issue. And this was brought forward by board member Granowitz, was one of our more outspoken ones. And I believe Allison Cormack, who is not in attendance today, really wanted to kind of bring this up and have a more detailed discussion. Once we turned in our report, the report request came back to us in the form of our sunset background paper on page 25, which they identified as issue number 27. And it says, should the BRN have flexibility to not take enforcement action against a licensee for violating provisions related to unprofessional conduct, specifically related to driving under the influence violations? And then the staff recommendations, so this is from Ledge staff, that says the BRN should advise the committee on enforcement statistics related to DUIs. The BRN should explain to the committee the number of enforcement actions that would be impacted by this change. You can see our response that we drafted below and submitted to the legislator, and that is on the middle of page 5. And then in the resources, we did include links directly to our sunset background paper, our sunset report. And one of the issues that I mentioned that we heard spoken about a lot at the EO Summit from NCSBN was the Kansas legislator, and that's House Bill 2528. And so those are the resources there that are kind of going to lead this discussion and bring it up. I also want to make sure in the attendees board moderator, I believe our enforcement chief was there. I don't see her right now, but she was going to join and be available. Oh, she is. So if you guys can elevate Shannon Johnson as a panelist, please, so that a participant, so that she can answer any kind of enforcement specific questions that you guys may end up having around this. Marissa, I just pulled her to the table in front of us right here. She's our chief of ledge. She's the one that would be going back and forth with legislative staff and looking at this for any future legislative ask or future regulatory changes that we might want as a board. And then I'm going to actually, before I turn over board members, let our board counsel, Reza Pejuest, chime in on this, as he's been involved in this greatly too, kind of leading us through discussions on what this can mean for us. And if you have any input, if you don't, Reza, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I know that you've been pretty vocal with this and trying to help us kind of manage kind of the legal aspect of what this encompasses for our board.
Sure. So I don't have a whole lot to add, but I'll just say that I think this is, this could be the kind of the beginnings of a longer term discussion. This is, obviously a big issue, and one that, it might not necessarily be solved overnight in terms of us coming up with the exact precise method of going about what we want to achieve. And in the first place, deciding upon what we want to achieve. But there has been some, as Lori mentioned, some attention from the board members as well as stakeholders to the issue of the outcomes of the discipline cases that are based on these non-practice related DUI and substance cases. So it is a little bit tricky because we've got the, sorry, I'm drawing a blank, the uniform standards for substance abusing healing arts licensees, and that's I may be slightly paraphrasing the title of that document, but that's the set of standards that our board has to use. And then for substance abusing licensees, but there are a few different ways we could conceivably go about, if the board wants to ultimately kind of take a step back on the type of discipline and the types of cases it imposes discipline for this category of cases. There are a few conceivable ways we could do it. One is either statute or regulation that maybe defines what is considered a substance abusing licensee for purposes of applying those uniform standards, or a regulation that spells out, if you're, say, a first-time offender with no aggravating circumstances, that you get a citation or you don't get discipline or whatever it may be. I'm just throwing out different ideas. And there could be other ways to tackle it as well. Our disciplinary guidelines could get a tweak to change the recommended level of discipline. All I'm saying right now is this is kind of the beginning of this discussion, and there are different ways that you could conceivably tackle the issue. But for now, I think it's and Marissa will speak more and kind of steer you on this, but I think the intention for now is to have a higher level policy discussion and get an understanding of, what is the general direction that the board is seeking to go on this. Like Lori said, we had some discussions around this issue and some helpful comments that kind of gave us an impression of maybe where the board is inclined to go, but they were not really full, kind of formal, focused discussions on this. And by the time of sunset review, I didn't feel like we were really in a position where we had fully articulated our position on this and formalized it, and we're in a position where we were prepared to recommend a specific course of action. So we kind of slowed things down as far as recommending anything through sunset. We just highlighted the issue for the legislature in sunset without making a specific recommendation. So that was just to allow us to kind of have the opportunity to more fully flesh this out and not kind of rush the policy. So that's it as far as what I've got for now, but happy to chime in.
We expect you to jump in
Yeah.
in a lot of this discussion, please. One of the other things I just wanted to share is when we got kind of the conversation from the board members, we took it back to board staff. And so we went and met with enforcement. We even reached out to the attorney generals, looked at DFI. We really brought everybody in on this discussion, just trying to see, is there any way that we could kind of easily address this? And there wasn't an easy way to address this. In part of a report, we did look at the Med Board language. And when we looked at the Med Board language, a lot of it aligns with our current processes right now. A lot of our DUIs go citation only, and you guys don't see them, but you guys still see a lot of DUIs. and you're voting on them and having conversations around them strictly because there is so many, right? And so one of the other conversations that we brought up is DUIs come forward to us because of the substantially related to the practice of nursing. And then we thought that we could even look at maybe defining for our board what that substantially related to the practice of nursing is. And that could help us in kind of looking at each one of the infractions that come in front of us that we look at enforcement wise. But again, nothing that we've landed on, nothing that we've had kind of a firm direction on. So really opening this up to you guys, and I'm not sure because it is just in there as a resource. I really wanted to kind of highlight that Kansas bill, the House Bill 2528, and really kind of show what occurred just this last year. And so the Kansas Board of Nursing, including its EO, that is no longer the EO. That's why I pay attention to this. I'll be honest. The entire board, including the EO, was removed by the Kansas legislature through this House bill because they felt that that board was overly punitive in some of their actions, not necessarily DUI, but just kind of putting it out there that there was discipline being issued around license renewal delays, about a lot of kind of the administrative type of work. And even with that, in the section, they said any board action occurring or record created on or after January 1, 2005, but prior to the effective date of this act that arise from disciplinary action based upon a violation of the following statutes and regulations that arise from or is related to applications for licensure, license renewal, license reinstatement, or practicing while a license has lapsed or expired shall be void. They went back 21 years and voided any action that had been taken around practicing while your license has been expired, license renewal, any of that kind of stuff, and just removed it all. So they're going through that process and removing all of that. They also went in and made a provision in there that talks about what a non-practice violation is, and that all of those non-practice violations would be void. And so they said that these violations needed to be around the practice of nursing. And so those are something that we would need to look at because if this happened in one state, I guarantee you that kind of spreads and we start looking at this. And so again, at the EO Summit, we really talked about right touch regulation and what that means, and looking at discipline and really looking at what our purpose is as a licensing board when it comes to public protection and how we work through that. And so really kind of referencing this, here for questions, here to facilitate discussion, but I really want to hear from the board members here. So I'll let you guys open it up.
This is Reza. Can I just add one thing? Before we really kind of dive into the discussion. I wanted to add, it occurred to me after I stopped talking, and Lori kind of mentioned this during her last comment, the substantial relationship requirement. I wanted to touch on that briefly. So as we know, in statute, we have a requirement that we discipline our licensees for conduct that is substantially related to the practice of nursing. When it comes to DUIs and things like that, that are, had nothing to do with the workplace, we do have case law that says that that type of conduct can be considered substantially related to the practice of nursing because of the, the judgment and all of those things that you're well aware of. So based on that case law and that position, our DUI cases, stand without, objection on account of that substantial relationship requirement. Nevertheless, I think that's still something you can think about, even though there's a court that said that type of conduct is substantially related. I think that you all can still think about, like Lori was given that example, what do you really consider to be truly substantially related to the practice of nursing? There's obviously actual practice related conduct and, omissions and things that occur in your practice that are pretty obviously practice related. Then you can look at stuff that had nothing to do with the practice, and you might still be able to pretty easily conclude that yes, that's related to the practice of nursing because, you know, it was extremely egregious and it's just, and then there may be some kind of gray area in the middle and you can think about, despite what, you know, a court may have said about it, what do we really think is truly substantially related to the practice of nursing? Because at the end of the day, we're not here to do double jeopardy and give people punishment a second time for conduct they were already punished for. We're here to protect the public from the possibility of harm from nurses who present a risk. So I just wanted to touch on that substantial relationship piece. I'm glad Lori brought that up. Very interesting example also from Kansas. That's fascinating.
Thank you. Board Member Nguyen.
Thanks very much. And thanks, Reza, for that. I mean, I think, you know, this board does deal with the gray areas, right? I mean, when I looked at this number of, you know, citations issued, it's much, much higher than I thought it was. I thought we saw a lot of the cases, but we really see a small fraction of the cases. You know, we are dealing with the gray areas. Sometimes it's, you know, a first offense, very low BAC, you know, no harm done. And then sometimes it's a very high BAC, a kid in the car, you know, running into a police officer. So we see the, you know, the gamut of that. So I'm very pleased we're having this discussion today. The overriding concern for me is consistency. And so I want to make sure that we treat all nurses the same. And I want to make sure that nurses aren't singled out for harsher penalty than other healing arts boards. So those are the two things that, you know, really kind of weigh on me when I read these cases. Of course, I can see consistency among nurses, but it's hard for me to assess the context in terms of other healing arts boards. So if anybody could give us information about that, I would be, you know, especially interested in that discussion.
President Lawler.
I do have a question, but I agree. I was going to say consistency needs to be a priority because sometimes we wonder why certain decisions were made on DUIs that didn't always match the ones prior to that. When I first started, I was surprised that unprofessional conduct at work was being considered an action taken outside of work. Even right now, I read this, it is considered unprofessional conduct to use alcohol to the extent that it impairs your practice. Well, if I'm sober the next day, it's not impairing my practice. However, I do understand the connection, and that's where I think the consistency could come, is to say, whatever the criteria may be that we believe does not connect to the practice, would allow for more flexibility. Because as I look on the next page, I know we've got 6 or 7 different options for discipline already. And before that, it says the board should have additional flexibility in response. So my question is, I don't know how much more flexibility other than first offenses, you know.
I know that Shannon is on. I'm not sure if she's available, if she knows anything from other healing arts, but we do have Tim Bunter in the back of the room. Do you have any information on this that you could share? And if you don't even worry about it. And then I can address with Marissa, because I know she's done some research. Okay, cool.
I'm here. Yeah, I don't off the top of my head have any data from the other healing arts boards directly related to DUIs. Obviously, though, because of our numbers are a lot larger than the other healing arts boards. So we are always going to have a larger number population of DUIs and conviction type cases.
Yeah, the only one, when this originally came up, I think it was within the context of how we compare with doctors. And I think we had gotten comments over the years from folks on if there's a disparity there. I think just given the nature of what our licensees do and the potential consequences, right, if things go wrong, being similar. And so with the medical board, there is a little bit more flexibility. It had language around if the conduct happens outside of work, they can take action when a person has 2 or more misdemeanor or felony drug and or alcohol related offenses. So it does get a little bit more wiggle room. And so initially when this conversation came up and members had expressed maybe a desire, we talked about, is that a direction we want to go? And I think to your point, it's really tough because it was in some instances, yes, that may be appropriate, but in some, that first one may be so egregious that it really does have a clear connection to the practice of work, which makes it not want to be limiting, right? Because I think, as both Lori and Reza said, the broader conversation is not at all stating that these are not incredibly serious occurrences that, you know, should not be happening. It's at what point does it cross into our jurisdiction? And at what point is it potentially putting patient safety at risk? Because just for the broader context right now, the legislature this year actually is looking at a whole suite of bills on how to kind of retool the DUI system in terms of penalties. It's a big area of focus. And, you know, what do we look at in terms of the penal code and the vehicle code? And, you know, for that purpose, when should these stay within the criminal justice system? And when do they cross over into indicating there's a potential patient safety risk? And that's a really hard, to your point, gray area that I think it's hard to put a fine tooth, like, number on. In terms of other boards, I haven't done a ton of deep digging, but I'm happy to do that to kind of provide some more context. The one, like I said, had been the medical board that we had dug into.
There was just one other, this is Reza, another kind of somewhat tangential thing, but just another piece of information that may kind of help with some context. So many of you probably already know this, but for those who don't, the way that our cases come about, the board initiates an investigation that ultimately could lead to enforcement action upon the receipt of a complaint. We don't begin anything until a complaint comes across. So for practice-related things that occur in a hospital or somewhere, that's usually the patient making the complaint or somebody else that, another healthcare worker that works there that saw something that makes a complaint with us, and that's how those practice-related issues usually come across. Separately, we also get background checks, and we get what are called RAPBAC reports from the DOJ, which anytime somebody gets arrested or convicted, we get a notification that says this licensee of yours was arrested. So we get information that way. So, and then as far as the number of criminal I'll call them complaints that we get from the DOJ that says somebody had a criminal conviction. I don't know the exact number of how that breaks down, but I strongly presume the vast share of those convictions are DUIs. So we get convictions for, domestic violence or convictions for, assault and battery or other types of convictions, but I would strongly presume that the vast, I'm hesitant to say majority, but the biggest share of our criminal convictions is DUI related stuff. So just by virtue of how we kind of get information about misconduct that could trigger an investigation, it just happens to be that the vast majority of or again, don't take the term majority with a grain of salt, but that the vast share of those just happen to be DUI related convictions because that's what we get the most notification of. So the reason you see so many of those cases is not necessarily that the BRN is hyper focused on DUIs. It's just that the vast majority of our complaints,
Just so you know, Reza, Tim nodded and agreed that the vast majority of the complaints are DUI, so you can continue to state that.
Okay, so yeah, majority, I was hesitant on that term because I didn't know if it was truly more than 50%, but having that confirmation, thanks, Tim. So hopefully that's clear, the point I'm trying to make, that just that it's not that we're focused on DUIs specifically, but we get notification of DUIs more than anything else. So, if we had more complaints about practice-related issues, I'm sure we would conduct more investigations on that side of things. So, yeah.
Can I go? It's Vicky.
Yeah, sorry.
I think all that's interesting, but on some level, it isn't that important to me because I think if you look at criminal justice in general, you're probably going to see more DUIs than other kinds of criminal activities that are just within the criminal justice. department to begin with. So anyways, that just is confusing to me. But the one of the issues I have with the way this gets done is that there is double penalties for DUIs. So an individual gets dinged by the criminal justice system. They go through all of the stuff and the testing and the rehab, and then we ding them and they go through all the testing and all the rehab. And while there is a component that's specific to nursing, and that's true whether they are caught as a function of the practice that they are doing, where they are a danger to the public within their practice, versus that they're just a danger to the public. Am I making sense? I see them differently, because the person that gets caught and they're not on their way to work, they're not on their way home from work, they are just out there doing a criminal behavior called DUI. And I just think there's an inherent wrongness for having double penalties. That's one thing that I find problematic about the way we do it. If we piggybacked on top of the criminal justice and added a component that was just related to nursing for those people where you can make a nexus to the DUI having to do with their practice, that's one thing. But I know it's complicated, but I have a problem with people who get caught doing DUIs where it doesn't have anything to do with their practice. And I know you can try to make the case that at some point it could be, if you get somebody who is a really bad alcoholic, meaning that eventually their alcoholism is going to eventually affect their practice. But we can't know that. And most of the ones we're seeing are not the heavy duty alcoholics. Yeah, you can get somebody who has a really high blood alcohol, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to affect their practice. And I read a lot of the stuff from Kansas, and I think they're on the right track. I mean, I have problems also with, I caught one the other day for a shoplifter. Now, what does shoplifting have to do with practice? I mean, it doesn't. So I just think there's a paternalistic component to this that's left over from our puritanical nature that we're now trying to look at changing. But I just, it's going to be difficult to do it. I know it's going to be difficult to do it. And maybe we start by looking at the ones that aren't related, where there is no specific nexus, and we start by having those be public reprovals and simplify it that way. As I've been going through, and I think most of you who sit in closed session with me or read what I write, I've started pulling them for discussion and saying this should be public reproval, because they were not on their way to work, they weren't at work. And so we could start slowly in making some of the changes, but I think it's inherently wrong to make nurses pay double the cost, double the time, when it's not related to specifically to the practice. That I can't make a nexus. I know I'm all over the place. I don't have the legal terminology you have, but I think it's just unfair.
Thank you for that comment, Member Granowitz. Anybody on the board have other comments to state?
I might be restating what I said earlier, but these numbers actually were very informative to me. We're not seeing most of the DUI cases. Most of the DUI cases are being resolved through citations, which I did not realize until I read the board packet. So, and of course, we're dealing with a gray area. I understand that. But maybe if we more fully understood when staff makes the decision about going the citation route versus going kind of the higher penalties, maybe we would understand that more fully. I also really want to say to Board Member Granowitz that I really appreciate you starting this conversation, and I do notice your involvement, and certainly the rule out provision is being used much, much more in these cases, and it's helping us make decisions. Like, this is not a chronic offender. This was, one time they were out and it was unrelated to working. I think that's a big improvement. I think that improvement has come about because Board Member Granowitz has really kind of taken this topic on, and I think it's an important topic, and I'm glad we're having a conversation. But I do think maybe that would help us if we understood a little bit more just when it becomes a more serious disciplinary case and how that relates to the citation process.
So I'm going to jump in real quick, and hopefully I'm not overstepping, but I want to share two incidences prior to my EO life and prior to my NEC life where I worked along two nurses that had DUIs and were within the board's enforcement system. The first one that I was made aware with was a director of a nursing unit in a hospital. So no direct access to patients. She did not do patient care. She ran a unit. And she had a DUI with a child in the car. Us that were direct reports to her, as well as the nurses underneath her, did not know this at all. We knew nothing that she had gone through that she was on probation. It was not aware to us until she made changes administratively that people were not happy with. And a peer noted on her license lookup that she had this filed. And it was printed out, it was put in the restrooms, it was put in the hallways, and she was attacked for it, essentially. And she was not doing any patient care. She left her position out of embarrassment, and she did petition and have that removed. And she won successfully, and it was removed from her license. But that is an effect that occurred on a person that had a DUI with a kid in her car that has an RN license, that was working as an RN, and how that affected her in her work. And so again, prior to me being a nursing education consultant at the board, prior to 2014, prior to EO and having this lens. Mm-hmm. So as a nurse at that point, I didn't understand. Mm-hmm. I didn't understand why that stuff was going on and why she was affected that way, and I felt terrible for her. Fast forward to my next interaction with an RN is, I don't know the exact circumstances of her DUI. I heard that it was something about her running a red light and she was under the influence. I was one of her worksite monitors. So she was in the intervention program. She was a great nurse. She worked in the operating room. She did not have access to medications, and she fulfilled her intervention program. She sobered up, and she had an amazing outcome, and her life is tremendously benefited from going through our intervention program. She made that commitment. She made the dedication, and she was able to work, and I was her work, and she got stellar reports throughout that entire time. So I saw the success of the intervention program. But we've also heard from our intervention and our probation participants about the financial impact and how this affects them. And, one of the things that, I've had many discussions of is the pathways to discipline here in our board is probation, honestly, it's a really good tool for those that have practice-related issues. You hung the blood on the wrong patient. You, had an egregious med error. You missed a failure to thrive, and the baby was incredibly negatively affected by this. Those things are practice issues. They go through our probation unit, and it's appropriate. We have monitors, we have worksite check-ins, we re-educate them, we get them to, sometimes they retake the NCLEX, sometimes they go and take additional coursework, sometimes we do whatever we do to address the knowledge that they missed that caused that practice error to occur. In the intervention unit, that is obviously a non-disciplinary unit, but it is a huge commitment and has a financial strain, and you do have to not use your license for a point in time, which is incredibly difficult to do. But you gain sobriety and health as you go through that program, and you do it successfully. So that has an amazing outcome for people that have a substance use disorder or a mental health condition that affects their competency of nursing. And that's specifically in our statute where that aligns. So I've seen our enforcement process with the DUI work very, very well in my prior life. I've also seen our enforcement process have a really negative outcome on a nurse's career in my prior life. I have obviously different viewpoints as I've learned more and came into this role. And so I, of course, have to abstain as much as I can from this discussion on kind of directing or anything with that. But I wanted you guys to know, and it might have been overstepping, but I wanted to share, like, those were two real life experiences that I had as an RN prior to coming in here, where I saw pluses and minuses. What I also kind of compared to is, I've been vocal with this. My husband's a teacher, and, he is also charged with protecting everybody that comes into his classrooms and takes care of them. And he is granted that authority, essentially, where people just drop them off and say, hey, take my kids, and they bail, and he's got them for the entire class day. What I didn't notice is, and he doesn't have a DUI, thank God, but if there was a DUI, I haven't seen teacher's license revoked on DUIs. So really kind of with us defining our substantially related to the practice of nursing is where I really thought that we could benefit when I'm looking at this in a procedural manner. And not just for DUIs, but like what Vicki pulled out and said, shoplifting, right? If we have an ability in our board to really look at the definition of substantially related to the practice of nursing, put it into statute or regs, give our staff a clear guideline of what that means so we have the consistency, that might be the answer to kind of taking our first step, is doing a package, a reg package or something that says this is what substantially related practice of nursing means for California Board of Nursing. We could pull data from across the states. We can try to get what we can on that. We can look at other healing art boards and try to line that up better. I don't know, and Reza, feel free to jump in if that would cause any issue within the court systems or with the attorney generals. We'd have to look at that, because we obviously wouldn't want to impact that. But really kind of giving our staff those guidelines, because we do have to rely on staff interpretation, various people looking at the same things and kind of applying it as much. And because we don't have a regulation on it, it has to be looked at individually. And that is where you may find some of the inconsistencies, because what you have, each different person looking at it might interpret it differently. But what we've commonly discovered is we might not have all the facts that they looked at, and they see something that we didn't see, and they identify trends and can do that. So they're truly the experts, not me up here at all. So with all of that, kind of looking at that, I was trying to kind of see where is a path forward, where is the next step? And that's kind of where I landed with looking at it, but I'm open to further discussion and conversation around it.
This is Board Member Patel, and I just wanted to piggyback off of what you said, which is really important, and thank you for highlighting how you were a worksite monitor. add to that an advanced practice nurse who doesn't have that ability to have worksite monitoring available, especially if they're practicing independently in a setting. It becomes exponentially harder. Also, as we move towards the direction of nurse practitioners obtaining 104 licensure, that's something that we're going to have to look at. So we really have to find a way to streamline this approach in a regulatory package, rather than having it individualized, like we're saying, because the board may shift, right, in the future. And that's where this board is now, but, in the future, we don't know where that transition is going to be. So do we need to make a motion? How should we go about, do we need more information before we, because I would like to propose a motion of some sort. Let me think about it. Yeah, let me think about that. And then essentially just weighing in all these consequences that occur. Of course, our aim as board members is to protect the public, but we want to make sure that there's proportionality for first-time offenses, ensuring that, taking nurses away from the public doesn't protect the public either, right? Our nurses take care of a lot of individuals. These are one-offs.
I just want to clarify that taking nurses away from the public sometimes does protect the public. Just
naturally, yes, it does.
Sure, because I've seen some of this stuff come across my desk and I was like, oh,
of course.
If people read what I read on the daily basis. No, joking with that. But,
Having said that,
there are some times where it is absolutely appropriate to discipline a license. But there are other times where it's like, okay, we see what's occurred. Is this raised to a level of a discipline? Or honestly, our intervention program, and I'm not trying to hey, intervention program, but it truly does benefit, or something to that, if they could even seek their own professional help. Because the reality of it is if you're getting a DUI, you have a substance use disorder. Typically, that's moreover the issue. And so if you're able to address that, and I've said this vocally in many board meetings, that if you're addressing the underlying cause of what that behavior is, which is the substance use disorder, which is the mental health issue, and you're able to right that, your competency as a nurse comes back, right? And because that's what affected your competency. So when you're able to address that, that competency returns. You didn't unlearn how to be a nurse. You just had other competing factors coming in that caused your outlook and your decision-making to be hazy. So working through that. But one other thing I want to drop in here, and again, I might be pushing too hard, so I apologize in advance if anybody takes this, but this is kind of how I kind of spider web out. When we take discipline on a nurse, that goes into a data bank. And it's accessible not just to their employers here, but to other boards of nursing throughout the nation. Other boards of nursing have a similar law that we have. Our law says we can take discipline on other states' disciplinary action. So if we take discipline on this and they want to go and work in Nebraska, that board now looks and there is discipline in California. They could additionally take discipline on them, right? So you've got the criminal justice, you got California discipline, and now you have someone go to Nebraska, and Nebraska's now take discipline on the California discipline that we took on the criminal. Do you see how it just kind of rolls? It kind of snowballs. But I want to put out there that taking discipline on an out-of-state discipline action is important a lot of times because people have state hopped. Right. So if I'm in Montana and I do something egregious and nobody knows about it, I can come to California and work and no one would know about it. And I could potentially do the egregious act I did in Montana again in California. And I could just keep jumping to a different, but we have what's called nurses, and nurses is a national data bank that puts everybody's state discipline against the license in this data bank, and we as boards of nursing have access to that, which is a huge benefit. When we're able to take discipline on their disciplinary action, it stops them from state hopping, or if they do choose to come to California, we're aware of it and our public is aware of it, and we can put them on probation and monitor them and allow them to work in our state and not have an issue. But knowing how our decisions can affect. And we've had several people come into public comment that says, this happened 10 years ago. Why is this still affecting me now? And it's because of these reporting structures. It's because when discipline action is taken, it does go to nurses, and then nurses, through the National Council of State Boards of Nursing, or NCSBN, they report to the National Practitioner Data Bank, which is a requirement of the Social Security Administration Act. So there are all of these separate layers that go into this. And so that's why it's really important that when our board does decide to take an action, that we understand and walk that forward. And it could 100% be required for the protection of the public. I want to make sure that that is something that is very much known, but it could also be something that we can look at if there's a citation, a public approval, something that could be done to kind of wrap that up. And then just Allison's not here to say it, so I just want to make sure that I say it. We're talking about the very small percentage of nurses. We have well over 500,000 RNs in our state, and we see less than 1% ever disciplined. So I want to make sure that our public understands that we're talking about a very small amount of percentage of nurses that do come through our system, that the vast majority of our nurses are doing the right thing and are not affected by this and are competent and are amazing nurses, and we don't have to protect the public against them because they are serving the public and doing amazing work. So thank you guys for that.
This is Vicki. Can I ask a question? Well, first of all, Lori, I appreciate you saying that because I've read one the other day where the nurse had been through the
Pause really quick, Vicki. You're talking about actions that you read that are
in general.
So if you can be very, very general and careful, because we don't want that.
Very
to go out there.
general. It's based on what you're saying, where you can see one where they've gone through the criminal justice system, they've got dinged in a couple of different states, and then California dings them based on the ones that happened in the other states. And I read those frequently. And so I always wonder about 3 or 4 times now they're going through a punitive experience. So, but that wasn't, I just wanted to say I agreed with you on that being an issue. The other thing I've noticed recently is now we're getting folks getting evaluations by people who are therapists who rule out whether an individual has a substance use disorder. And in all the ones I've read so far, not one of those people have said this individual has a substance use disorder. They've all said they don't have a substance use disorder. And so I wonder if anyone's evaluating the evaluators, because that's a factor in us being able to trust that somebody actually isn't an alcoholic. And I'm not sure I'm trusting those because they're all coming back negative, and yet occasionally we see them where they get a second DUI after they were ruled out. So that makes it complicated too.
Well, I can promise you that all of our clinical evaluators are evaluated and put through a process to vet them. And so they are looked at and they are continually looked at, and our enforcement team works very closely with anybody that presents that says, I believe I meet the criteria, I would like to be an evaluator, and they look at them. And then based on the evaluations that come back, if there is anything that is noted that's a little bit off, they immediately reach out and have conversations with that. But there definitely is an evaluation process. Those reports are looked at, and they are vetted, and we firmly stand behind the practitioners that do this service with us, which even if you're not seeing that they come back as they have a substance use disorder, I've seen some come across where they're like, yes, it is. And they do a lot of times show up in our intervention program, which is great. That's where they should be. And they shouldn't be in front of our board because it should be confidential and non-disciplinary, and they should go in that way. So you might be seeing the subset that didn't choose to go into our intervention program because they too believe they didn't have a substance use disorder and maybe would not benefit. So we do with those evaluators, definitely they come back and say, yes, there's a substance use disorder. And in their evaluations, they actually say that they should not be practicing nursing at that time. And so when they're in the intervention program and that's the evaluation they receive, they are not allowed to return to practice until that evaluator reevaluates them and says, now they are safe to return to practice. And then they go through the intervention evaluation committee and they release them slowly back into practice with monitoring. So because you don't, as the board members, you don't see the intervention side, the only time that you would ever see an intervention side where they truly have the diagnosis of substance use disorder or mental health issue that affected their competency is if they failed out of that program. We want them to never come to you because we want them to successfully complete. Everything is sealed. Nobody has access to it. Nobody knows it. They're recovered and their practice is safe.
Lori, is it possible for us to get some statistical data just in general of how many of the evaluations come back as, yes, they have a substance use disorder, no, they don't, so that we can trust the process? Because right now, all it looks like is that they're all coming back as not. So hearing you say this is helpful, but...
So it might come down to some of the statistics. So 1% of our RNs we receive complaints on, and only 1% of that 1% is ever disciplined. And so you only see 1% of the 1% with you. So those are the ones that you are seeing that potentially do not have a substance use disorder. And the 100+ participants that we have in our intervention program right now do have their practice of nursing that is affected by a substance use disorder. So, and it has been confirmed, and that's why they're eligible for that program. They would not be able to be in the intervention program if their practice wasn't affected by it. That is one of the criteria for enrollment in there. So I could tell you, just looking at that numbers wise, we potentially could get some numbers and report out, but just off topic right here, you see the 1% of the 1%, and we have 100+ in our intervention program at any time, even with new enrollments and completions that do have a confirmed substance use.
Okay, and maybe I should know that, but I'm off the top of my head just not going to remember it.
Well, and you shouldn't know that because that intervention participants are completely kept private, even from our board members.
No, I just mean in terms of process, not individual, but the process is if someone's in intervention, then there's an evaluation that says they have a substance use disorder.
For the most part, yes. I mean, there are some one-offs and everything's looked at on an individual basis. It could be a mental health only issue and they might not have a dual diagnosis. And those are rare, but it does occur. But the intervention process, just to kind of reorient and put back, the board appoints the IEC committee on purpose so that you guys stay out of it. Because if they do not successfully complete that program, they do then come over to the board for an evaluation, whether it's a public safety risk. And if it is, it does come to our board to make a decision on discipline. And so you guys appoint that committee to do the work in lieu of you. So that when they are in that area, that system that is an alternative discipline program, they have no contact with you and you guys are not aware of it, so that there is nothing that can directly influence them later on if they were to come in front of you. So that's why you would not know, Vicki, and that's okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I just add on to that, Lori? I just want to say, Lori was speaking earlier about us doing call outs. And one of the areas is the 820 evaluations that we are conducting. The 820s are the compelling them to a psych mental health eval. The ones that come back where they should be monitored or need to be monitored, or maybe are not safe to practice or have a substance abuse issue, those are the ones I'm directly calling now on the phone. I'm trying to ensure they know that we have a program. I give them information, share with them so they can make an educated decision on which route they want to go. Unfortunately, the ones that don't choose the program, you will end up seeing in front of you at some point.
Thank you, Shannon. President Lawler?
To go back to your point about a package that would help us understand that we could push forward, I would, it may require slight clarification of our philosophy. Like you said about your husband, the philosophy is a professional or an unprofessional conduct happens during your professional hours. So yes, the teacher who has 3 beers at lunch, who runs out and smokes pot during passing periods, absolutely that's during school hours. But even though we could be disciplined for swearing in the classroom, we're certainly not going to be disciplined after school. So the philosophy is our professional conduct happens during our professional time. And so the discipline would change if that doesn't happen during our professional time. I don't know, maybe a clarification. And then number 2, options for what other flexible actions that could be taken, as simple as more public approvals, less something else, or the first one's free if it's ethanol, alcohol, and not narcotics that you're driving under. You know what I mean? That's something they could come up with to present to us, and we could say, and look it over at the next meeting.
And I think that's really important because I think the Kansas issues, since we brought it up, specifically address whether or not the board was harshly, being punitive towards nurses, given that they've already gone through the public justice system. So we don't want to have, private things that occur during the private time to then, hold that against a nurse. Again, keeping in mind that public protection is our main focus, but perhaps we can look at something just to provide our current BRN staff and our board some guidance to say something to the effect of perhaps maybe a first-time DUI offense, a low BAC, because in that Kansas bill, it was a high BAC, although they didn't define what the high BAC included. Perhaps we need to define what that means, maybe twice the legal limit without other mitigating circumstances. That's what I would like to entertain today, to say, to put some structure in place. And then also something that involves or states that this is an incident that occurred, maybe, over 5 years ago, then that's something that this board doesn't have purview to. So can we discuss how to maybe, how we want to formalize that?
Real quick before you go, our board right now, we have a 7-year rule. So if it happened 7 years prior to them coming in and asking for licensure, we don't consider it unless it's a felony or something that's egregious. And then, but we do get RAP back. And so that means RAP back. And so if I, as an RN right now, go out and get a DUI, that is noticed to our board tomorrow morning. They would know immediately that I got a DUI last night. And so that is how that is set up. One of the things that I also do want to just do clarification really quick, when you were talking about work hours and non-work hours, if you're taking a substance that has a peak and a trough, or a peak at 4 hours in, but it is not out of your system for 8 hours, there is some time that what you do outside could affect work hours too. So just make sure that's there. And then, another thing that just to always have in the back of our mind, and more specific for the intervention program and not our probation program, is the criminal justice system is not typically set up to address rehabilitation when it comes to substance use disorder and mental health. And so I really think, again, a benefit for our intervention program is that does specifically set it up to address that.
Yeah.
Board Member Nguyen, thank you.
Thanks very much, Board Member Patel. I completely support where you're going with this, and I do think more detail in direction to staff is helpful, even though maybe we won't land on twice the legal limit, maybe whatever. I don't know what the number is, but I think it's a good starting point. So I am completely in support of where you're going with this. And I don't know if it's 5 years or 7, but I mean, to just give some, direction and let staff come back to us and say, we don't think 5 is workable, whatever. Yeah.
So process-wise, again, as a check, if we're going to do a regulatory package, you guys would just kind of make a motion that would direct us to do a regulatory package to address this kind of topic. We obviously don't rely on you guys to come up with the language. We work with several stakeholders. We do a ton of research. It might be a year before you guys see any language. And then we bring it back in front of you guys. It will go through practice committee and then onto the board and many, many edits. With this, obviously, affecting large people, I'm sure we're going to have a huge stakeholder outreach that would come there. More specifically, though, do you want us to just explore kind of like if this, then that, and make it kind of prescriptive, where if it's twice the limit, then this, if there's a kid in the car, then it's this? Or do you want us to go more towards looking at the substantially related to the practice of nursing and define that better? Or do you want a hybrid of it, really kind of looking at some direction to have Marissa sitting there very nicely? Because Marissa's going to have to lead this. And so just giving her some direction on where to kind of start with that.
President Lawler.
I don't think you can do one without the other. I think the foundation as not a mission statement, as a philosophy, really does guide where, that's the spider web Lori was talking about earlier in my head.
Yeah, just based on what I'm hearing, I wouldn't recommend we jump to regs quite yet. I think there's more kind of discussion to have where like we can go back and kind of come up with some sample criteria kind of that touches both and then bring that and have reactions. And I think that'll help us hone in a little bit more. And then once we go to the reg package, we'll have a clearer idea. I think there's still some more discussion to be had before we jump into like putting it in law.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So we could make this a standing agenda item for our future priorities board meeting. It could be a 6.1 each board. And if we want to work on it more in practice, we could, or if we want to work on it more in EIIC, we could, or if you guys want to really keep it to a full board discussion, we can do that as well. I kind of lean towards the more full board discussion, honestly.
I think quarterly revisiting this.
Quarterly revisit at the board members as a standing 6.0. We can definitely just keep plugging forward on this and working it out. So that would be a motion if you wanted to make that.
Thank you. This board member Patel would like to make a motion to have this particular agenda item 6.1 as a standing board meeting action item.
Granowitz seconds.
Thank you. Any discussion from board members before we open it up to public comment? Okay, board moderator, please open it up to public comment.
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment." Chris Harkins would like to make a comment. 1 second, please.
While we wait, this is Reza. Given the nature of this topic, I just want to give a quick caution. If anyone is intending to talk, if anyone has a pending discipline case in front of the board and they want to talk about their specific case, this wouldn't really be the time and place to do that, to talk about the specifics of your case, but certainly can talk about your views on this policy and anything else that you might want to share. Thanks.
Chris, go ahead.
Hello, and thank you. My name is Christopher Harkins, and I just wanted to provide a comment that I sincerely appreciate the conversation that is being had. I wanted to state that, Board Member Granowitz, I especially appreciate your feedback and your insight because I couldn't agree with you more. And if there's anything that I could do to help in the future with pushing forward even legislation for this, I believe that this is a very important topic. For a little bit of insight, I do believe that there is a sort of double jeopardy here that kind of takes place, especially with First, the legal system, of course, if a nurse gets in trouble, they deal with the legal repercussions. But then again, later on with the board, you're dealing with that as well. For a little bit of background insight, it took 3 years for my infraction to come before the board. So I practiced for 3 years before hearing anything from the board, to then be told that nursing practice ultimately was going to be affected. So that part was very confusing to me, is how I was able to practice safely, move forward in my nursing career, and then be told from your infraction 3 years prior, you now have to go through this process. And there were comments prior about how it's a little confusing with the coercion to the different programs of intervention versus probation. That is something that is very, very legitimate. I remember there was discussion about one can fall off of your nursing license, off your record within 10 years. One of them, you couldn't work. So that was very difficult in deciding which avenue to take to go the probation route. And I believe back then it was called diversion. So that is very confusing. So I appreciate those comments as well. And for my personal story, mine was an infraction, not even a misdemeanor, for offensive language in a public place. Alcohol was involved, but regardless, it still was an infraction. And in the legal repercussions, I had to pick up trash for 8 hours for work release. However, I then was under 16 stipulations from the board for 2 years. And then even then, it's been 10 years plus. And I can also now not be an expert consultant with the board. That's something that's a little bit disappointing because of a prior issue. So I do recommend maybe if you could look at that as well and having that removed, or on an individual basis, because I believe in my 10 years since, I have great knowledge and great expertise, and that's something that I would have definitely loved to participate in. But once I saw that immediate requirement that any prior issues automatically disqualify you, that was a little bit disappointing. So if that could be in consideration as well. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. George Henry Olson IV would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. Oh, I lost.
Hello, my name is George Henry Olson IV. And again, I just wanted to piggyback off what Chris was saying. I do appreciate the board looking into this very much. I just completed my probation program in January. So I did, and like Chris was saying, the previous comment, I got my DUI. It occurred in 2021 in July, and I wasn't charged until a year after. And then 2 years later, which we informed the board immediately and everything, but the board didn't do anything for another 2 years after that. So again, I was practicing, and again, I joke about it, but I never had a parking ticket. I didn't do anything, but I worked with my lawyer, and we provided, hair follicle tests to prove, and I went to AA. I was doing everything that we would normally do in the probation or intervention program prior, and I was still put on probation. And even so, I've had evals, and I told my work, I told everything. And because my restrictions, I was on the float team as a manager, I couldn't supervise, but it was never approved. And unfortunately, my work agreement was not approved from the board, and I had to resign, unfortunately, from a 13-year position that I really loved and enjoyed, and unfortunately, but I started the program. It was extremely difficult. I had over 50 tests of random urine tests, which were $50 each. So it's like over $6,000 of testing, when I never took a drink. I would never do that again, like be in that situation. I had 6, and then I tried to work. I had 60 interviews. I'm not lying about that. And at the end of the interview, I'd have to explain I had a non-patient care, issue that I'm dealing with the board, and I would get turned down. And I have certifications. I have, and the last thing hasn't been brought up, but I was one class and one practicum away from my MSM program to do then. So I was like, since I was looking for a job, I'll just finish this off. Well, I had part of my requirement is I had to tell my my program that I'm being disciplined through the board, and I had to be removed from the program immediately. So now I'm trying to get back into it. That's a 2-year off of my professional development. And then I've brought it up to the board many times before, and I've even filed a complaint with the Consumer Bureau, but there's no quote unquote international ban, but I have family in Argentina. My son was literally born at this whole time. He just was born as I started the program, and we were going to go to Argentina, and we couldn't go because if I was going to go to Argentina and I got randomly drug tested, I would have to fly back to Miami and then fly back, which totally broke my heart. And luckily, after the program was the first thing I did, we got to see my family in Argentina. But I appreciate it so much, but it's a cautionary tale. I don't treat this as taboo. I tell all my coworkers, all my nursing, everyone, and they're just shocked. They're like, "What did you do?" And I'm like, honestly, it was just a DUI. I did not hurt anyone. I did not fight with the police. I didn't do anything. And yes, I made a mistake, and I appreciate you guys looking at this. And I'm not saying to be scot-free, but the double jeopardy is insane. And then the last part is I'm marked. I did everything I was supposed to be doing, and not only that, it says what I did on my license as you look into it, but it doesn't show everything that I did to get out of this or to complete. And that's the other thing. If anything, I hope this could be removed, or at least add my whole packet of everything that I've done to complete this program. But again, I just appreciate it. I know I can't imagine the immense responsibility you have, holding the professional accountability of one of the largest group of nurses in the country. And I do respect it. And again, the program has given a lot of insight for me, and I'm so thankful I've completed it. But there's a lot of people in my nursing share group that are still looking for jobs, and I'm trying my hardest to help them. And I'm trying to get back into leadership, but it's extremely hard at this point. And I'm trying to get back on course for my professional development. But again, I really appreciate it. And if I can be of assistance as a freshly completed person in this program from the probation side, I'd have no problem, being that voice or just trying to work with you guys. So again, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your comment. Okay, I'm sorry, I forgot who was running this. Is this still Vice President Patel?
Yes, it is. Do we have any other public comments?
Sorry. Okay, Vice President Patel, there are no other public requests for comments on the WebEx. Do we have any in-person requests for comments in BRN HQ?
It does not appear that we have any in HQ. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like me to close this window?
Yes, thank you. Okay, so we have stated that this will be a ongoing agenda item for board meetings to come in the future. Thank you for everybody's input. Perfect. And we'll take a roll call vote. President Lawler?
Yes, Lawler, yes.
Vice President Patel, yes. Member Granowitz?
Granowitz, yes.
Member Nguyen?
Nguyen, yes.
Member Dominguez?
Dominguez, yes.
Thank you. That motion carries. Thank you. Okay, and then we will recess for lunch. We will till 1:30, correct? Yes. We will come back at 1:30. Thank you very much. Okay, welcome back. Thank you. We had a nice lunch. I hope everybody else did. We will call roll call to make sure that we have a quorum. President Lawler?
Lawler present.
Board Member Patel present. Member Nguyen?
Nguyen, present.
Member Dominguez?
Dominguez, present.
And Member Granowitz?
Granowitz, present.
Thank you. That we established a quorum. Everybody's present. We will move on to agenda item 7. 7. Thank you. This is discussion and possible action regarding the initial draft of regulatory text to modify California Code of Regulations, CCR Title 16, to add requirements for CRNA, Certified Registered Nurse Anesthetist. And we have a presentation.
Good afternoon. Marissa Clark, the Chief of Legislative Affairs. I'm just going to kind of briefly go over the text and then open it up for questions. Just some background. Last year, as I'm sure you remember, AB 876 by Assemblymember Flora was signed into law, which codified the CRNA scope of practice and then clarified the term anesthesia services. And so since the board currently doesn't have regulatory guidance on CRNAs, the proposed text included in your meeting materials would establish a new article that would be housed obviously within our Title 16 Division 4 section. It includes both policy guidance related to AB 876 as well as operational guidance related to kind of general education and application requirements for CRNAs. This proposed text was, or a version of the proposed text was discussed and voted on at the April 7th meeting of the Certified Registered Nurse Anesthetist Advisory Committee, and they voted to recommend that the board approve a earlier version of this proposed text. Several changes were then made to that version based on stakeholder input, consultation with legal counsel, as well as additional discussions at the Nurse Practice Committee when the language was discussed again. So in order to make sure you kind of see transparently where it started and where it ended, the text that is in your meeting materials is the text that was voted on, but any changes that have made since the advisory committee voted on are indicated with new language in italicized blue and strikeout language in kind of red strikeout. The main thing I think that we were trying to get at is go back and remain as aligned with the initial text that was voted on at the advisory committee, while clarifying that what we were trying to regulate was remaining within the scope of our authority, that we weren't trying to touch providers outside of our authority, but really focus within our CRNAs. So happy to answer any questions about the text or any of the changes that were made.
Go ahead, Bob.
I have one very quick process question.
Yes.
So I know that there have been changes made since the advisory committee. When the advisory committee meets, do they take public comment the way we take public comment at our committee meetings?
Yes, they do.
So based on that public comment, did the advisory committee make changes before it went? Okay. Okay.
So there was public comment at the advisory committee, and changes were made between the advisory committee and the nurse practice committee.
Thank you. Okay.
And then at the nurse practice committee, there was also public comment. So there were changes made between the nurse practice and the full committee. And so what is in here is basically the changes from the original to now the current proposed.
Yeah. But I also want to make sure that I'm really clear on, in the advisory committee, even though public comment was received and we as board staff and legal counsel made changes, the advisory committee did not make those changes based on the public comment. The advisory committee voted to move the language forward as written without taking those into consideration. So the advisory committee, of course, is advisory to the board. Board doesn't have to accept it. But they can accept all of it. But I want to be very transparent that we as board staff and in legal consultation heard the public comments, realized that we would probably run into some difficulties getting it through OAL. And so we proactively made the changes based on the public feedback and interested parties meetings and all this kind of stuff that we did, and then presented that in a transparent manner, just the same way to nurse practice. When it went to nurse practice, there was still more public comment, more changes. And so since nurse practice, we made additional changes based on the public feedback that was received in comment.
Yes.
And now you see the original document from the advisory committee language that has now morphed to here.
Yes, thank you for clarifying that.
And I do want to acknowledge and appreciate the work that has gone in behind the scenes. But go ahead, David. I'll actually, President Lawler, I'll let you finish and I'll finish my thought later.
Very quick question. I appreciate how well this has been crafted. What I've been asked is, in the process of this happening, how soon can this be enforceable?
So this would still need to go through the entire regulatory process. So once if you were to sign off whatever version it is, then my staff and I would go and create the draft package. And then that would go out for public comment. It goes through layers of review. So usually the final is in anywhere from 1 to 2 years. So it's a little bit down the road. Yeah.
Anybody else have any comments?
Yeah, just one more process one.
Sure.
So if this language gets voted through today, and is accepted, whether there's changes or no changes, however you guys want to put it out. When we draft it, it still goes out to a 45-day comment period. So we will receive more comments, more public feedback on it. It will come back in front of the board.
Okay, thank you. I think it's time to go out for public comment. Board moderator, please open it for public comment.
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment." Kristen Roman would like to make a comment. 1 second, please.
Hello, are you able to hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, members of the board. My name is Kristen Roman. I'm a certified registered nurse anesthetist and the president of the California Association of Nurse Anesthesiology. CANA represents more than 3,000 CRNAs and nurse anesthesia students across California. I wanted to thank you for your continued work implementing AB 876 and for your commitment to protecting the public through thoughtful regulation. My comments today are limited to one provision in the proposed CRNA regulations, Section 1498-2. CANA appreciates the board and the advisory committee's effort to clarify that a CRNA is not presumed to be supervised simply because another practitioner is present in the same location. However, we are concerned that the inclusion of the phrase "other healthcare provider" creates ambiguity that does not exist in current law. Unlike the terms physician, dentist, and podiatrist, the term healthcare provider is not defined in the Nursing Practice Act for purposes of authorizing anesthesia services or establishing supervisory authority over CRNAs. As drafted, the regulation could reasonably be interpreted to suggest that individuals who lack statutory authority over anesthesia practice may nonetheless be contemplated as potential supervisors of nurse anesthetists. Business and Professions Code 2826.6 specifically identifies physicians, dentists, and podiatrists as the practitioners whose orders authorize anesthesia services. It does not reference other healthcare providers. Likewise, Section 2833.6 provides that implementation of Article 7 shall not restrict, expand, alter, or modify the existing scope of practice of the nurse anesthetist. For that reason, CANA respectfully requests that the phrase "or other healthcare provider" be removed wherever it appears in Section 1498-2. This simple change would maintain consistency with the Nurse Practice Act, eliminate unnecessary ambiguity for licensees and healthcare facilities, and better accomplish the board's stated goal of implementing AB 876 without creating uncertainty regarding CRNA scope of practice. Thank you so much for your consideration and for your continued service to California's patients and the nursing profession.
Thank you for your comment. Lucas Evanson would like to make a comment. 1 second, please.
Hello, my name is Lucas Evanson, and I'm speaking on behalf of the California Medical Association. CMA appreciates the proposed revisions to the draft regulatory language in today's meeting materials. The draft addresses our concerns by ensuring the regulations are clear and focused on the board's licensees. We appreciate all the work that has been done to work through the issues around clarity and authority in the draft. CMA asks the board to adopt the proposed regulatory text as drafted in item 7.1 of the meeting materials. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Emily Frank would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. Ooh, I have two Emily Franks. Let's see. Let's try this one first. Oh.
Hi there.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, like as you mentioned, this is Emily Frank. I am a CRNA in California and the immediate past president of California Association of Nurse Anesthesiologists. And I am calling because I basically echo everything that Krista just mentioned. She couldn't have put it better. And so I just want to double down on what she said. So thank you so much for your time. And I urge you to go ahead and remove that language for less ambiguity and to ensure that it could get through the legislature without further pushback. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Mark Pahead. I hope I didn't mess that up. Mark Pahead would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. Mark, somewhere. There you go.
Yes. Hi. Hello. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Mark Pahead. I'm a certified registered nurse anesthetist and a doctor of nursing anesthesia practice. I've been in practice for 28 years in the state of California and in independent practice as well. I'd like to make a comment today, and I respectfully request that the phrase "or other healthcare provider" be removed wherever it appears in proposed 1498-2. The benefits of this revision, as Kristen was saying earlier, it maintains consistency with the Nursing Practice Act and ensures the regulation reflects existing statutory authority, and it avoids implying supervisory relationships that are not established by law. And it better accomplishes the board's stated goal of implementing AB 876 without altering the existing scope of practice of CRNAs. So I'm requesting again, please, removing the phrase "other healthcare provider" would preserve the board's intended clarification while ensuring the regulation remains aligned with statute and avoids unintended interpretations. Again, I'm Mark Pahead, and I'm one of the board of directors with the California Association of Nursing Anesthesiology. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comment. Diana Haikula would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. Sorry, Diana, if I chopped that up.
Hello, thank you. Actually, you said it perfectly, Diana Haikula. I am a California member of CANA, and I am speaking today regarding the one provision, proposed CCR 1498. And I just want to further establish that healthcare provider is not defined in the Nursing Practice Act for purposes of authorizing anesthesia services or establishing supervisory authority over CRNAs. And this is unlike other terms which are very specific: physician, dentist, and podiatrist. I respectfully request that the phrase "or other healthcare provider," and I'm going to reiterate it again, "or other healthcare provider," be removed wherever it appears in this proposal 1498. And the benefit is that it will maintain consistency with the Nursing Practice Act and ensures that regulation reflects existing statutory authority. So in closing, and I'm going to say it again, I am requesting removal of the phrase "other healthcare provider" wherever it is in 1498. Thank you. Once again, this is Diana Haikula, and I've been a practicing CRNA for over 25 years and proud of the work that I do.
Thank you for your comment. Vice President Patel, there are no other public requests for comments on the WebEx. Do we have any in-person requests for comments in BRNHQ?
Yes, we do.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and board members. First of all, congratulations to the new chair and vice chair. We're very excited to be able to work with you for the next year and looking forward to the great work that you're going to do, particularly as we go through sunset, or as you go through sunset. Monica Miller on behalf of the California Association of Nurse Anesthesiology, and want to echo the comments made by my colleagues here, particularly our current president, Dr. Roman. So just briefly, and I know we've had conversations with you, with your staff staff regarding that comment. We just have concerns because it is not defined in current law what other healthcare provider means. So it could be very ambiguous, and we want to make sure that the whole purpose of 876 was to call out, codify our existing scope, but specifically ensure that there was no ambiguity, because that's what got us sort of to where we were going through with the Department of Public Health, et cetera. So we think it's really important to ensure that the language is as tight as possible. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but look forward to continuing to work with your staff. We know that this process is long and arduous, and there's a lot of work that goes into putting together a reg package, but we would love it if we could at least get this piece taken care of at this point, and hopefully we can get this off to OAL sooner rather than later. So thank you so much for your time, as always.
Thank you for your comment. Do we have any other public requests for comment?
It doesn't appear that we do. Thank you.
Thank you. We close the comment portion of this item.
Yes, please. Thank you. Okay. So yes, Board Member Nguyen.
Well, I appreciate so much the public comment, and I would love to hear, staff, or committee members to explain to us how we came up with this term, and if there are other types of public health, other healthcare providers that we might enumerate rather than have a term that may be ambiguous.
No, we're okay with removing the term "or other healthcare providers." That was an attempt by myself and board staff to include it. This was part of the original draft language that CANA had submitted a few years ago. And then it was also part of the original, the proposed regulatory language that had been passed. So we kept it in there just to honor their request. We're totally welcome and able to remove it based on their request. So yes.
And that saves me the explanation. So thank you very much. So we don't want to offer ambiguity. We already have a foundation in place, right, with Nurse Practice Act and indicating the providers that are in place. So I'm ready to make a motion. I would like to make the motion to indicate that I would like to move to the proposed draft language.
Lawler, a second.
Thank you.
I'm going to jump in really quick and have you guys revise that.
Thank you.
So I would ask you guys to look at the language that's on the screen. And so I'm going to read it off. If you guys want to do a so moved, I'm totally okay with that. And so what I'm going to say is motion to approve the proposed regulatory text as written, with exception of removing the term "or other healthcare providers" in section 1498(2). And then direct staff to take all steps necessary to complete the rulemaking process, authorize the executive officer to make any technical or non-substantive changes to the proposed regulations, and adopt the enclosed modified text either as described or in the proposed modified text or with any potential amendments if no relevant adverse comments are received within the modified text comment period. You guys can so move. That is coming up. If we see something as it moves through the regulatory process and we miss a comma or we have to do a sentence reword or whatever, that's where it is. And it's a common to, you guys do it every single time with the regulatory text.
Any type of content-based changes always comes back. Yeah.
Yep.
Just want to be sure. Thank you. Okay, so moved.
And seconded.
And we've already done public comment, so you guys can do board vote.
Okay, I'll go ahead and take it out to a vote. President Lawler?
Lawler, yes.
Tell yes. Member Nguyen?
Yes.
Member Dominguez?
Dominguez, yes.
Member Granowitz?
Granowitz, yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, agenda item 7.2 will be to Executive Officer Melby. Thank you.
Okay, agenda item 7.2 encompasses all of the work of the advisory committee. And so it is consent agenda at this point. And so if the board wishes to pull anything out under 7.2, we can have discussion, or you guys can make the motion that's on the screen.
Member Nguyen. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'd like to move that we accept the recommendations of the Nursing Practice Committee for all items contained in item 7.2.
Lawler, second.
We have a first and a second. Can we open up to public comment, please?
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment." Vice President Patel, there are no public requests for comments on the WebEx. Do we have any in-person requests for comments in BRNHQ?
It does not appear we do. Thank you. You can close that window. We're going to take it out to vote. President Lawler?
Lawler, yes.
Patel, yes. Member Nguyen?
Nguyen, yes.
Member Dominguez?
Dominguez, yes.
Member Granowitz?
Granowitz, yes.
That motion carries. Thank you. Okay, agenda item 7. Sorry, lost my place. Excuse me. We're on 3, right? So obviously 7.3.
There we go.
Okay, this is discussion and possible action. Approve the initial draft of the regulatory text for, is that it? No, I'm sorry. We just did that. I'm sorry. Yes. Oh, here we, okay, so excuse me, let me rephrase that. Agenda item 7.3, discussion and possible action, appointment of Nursing Education and Workforce Advisory Committee and the Nurse Midwifery Advisory Committee members. And I'll hand it off to Executive Officer Melby.
And it's not in the board materials, so I'm trying to find my email. So give me 1 second. I have the names. I completely apologize. It's terrible service in here right now, so I'm not able to find it. Sorry, it is materials. I'm just have an old version up, so I apologize for that, guys. Thank you. So we did have some vacancies in the NEWAC committee. A currently practicing RN was recently vacant. An employer representation from a professional nursing organization was vacant. And then a nursing program director was vacant for NEWAC. We did not receive any applicants back from the nursing program director, so we are not able to fill that currently. We did send a more directed email blast out to CACN to ask if they would disperse that. So Macaulay Fusarin sent that out. We have not received anything back on that one yet. So we're hoping to get a CACN director so that we can appoint. But in the meantime, we did receive RN and employer representation. Additionally, we did recruit for the Nursing Midwifery Advisory Committee nurse midwife position that was vacant, and we did receive that back. So we do have three individuals that we are putting forward. I did bring this up as the EO. We screened all these. We did bring it to the admin committee. The admin committee reviewed and approved, and these names were put forward. And so for the individual, Jasmine Whitney, RN BSN, to fill the currently practicing RN vacancy on the NEWAC committee. And then we have a Rolanda Jackson, and she is to fill the professional nursing organization representative vacancy on NEWAC. And then for the Nurse Midwife Advisory Committee, we recommend Lena Williams to fill the nurse midwife vacancy on NMAC. And if you guys are okay with that, or if you have any questions, happy to answer any of those, or you guys can make a motion that's on the screen.
I do want to take a time to publicly thank those members that have applied for this position. It was a really hard decision. We had some extraordinary candidates to choose from, and I want to continue to encourage people to apply for these positions. There's a need, and we appreciate your service. I'm ready to make a motion on those members. Okay, can I get a second?
Second,
Lawler second. Thank you. Patel first, and we'll open it up to public comment.
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment." Chris Harkins would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. Chris, go ahead.
Hello, thank you. I just wanted to confirm, Kathy Hughes was on the NEWAC. She was the executive director for SEIU Nurse Alliance of California. I am the new executive director that replaced Kathy after her retirement. So I just wanted to confirm if I would be replacing her on the NEWAC, or the new member that you guys are voting on is going to be replacement in her vacancy. Thank you.
So just so you understand the process here, so our like union representatives and our UCSF contracted one, they do not go to board vote. So that is not part of this process. It is the union will tell us who fills that in, just like the chancellor's office tells us who fills that in, because it's a position, not a person. And so that position is managed differently than these through this process. So that position that's vacated by Kathy Hughes is managed differently, and it will not be part of the board vote here.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you for your comment. Board President, Vice President Patel, there are no other public requests for comments on the WebEx. Do we have any in-person requests for comments there in BRNHQ?
No, we do not. You can close the window. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll take it to a vote. President Lawler?
Lawler, yes.
Vice President Patel, Nilu, yes. Sorry, Member Nguyen?
Win, yes.
Member Dominguez?
Dominguez, yes.
And Member Granowitz?
Granowitz, yes.
Thank you. That motion carries, and congratulations to the members who applied. Okay, moving on to agenda item 8.0, that's report of the Education and Licensing Committee.
Jovita? Oh, sorry. That's okay. And then we'll make sure that we promote Dr. Mary Ann McCarthy, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Jovita Dominguez and Chair of the Education and Licensing. And Dr. McCarthy will lead us.
Before we move forward really quick, it looked like Vicki Granowitz was raising her hand. Did you have a comment or were you just stretching? Just stretching. Okay. Thank you. Go ahead and move on.
No problem.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. This is Mary Ann McCarthy. I am a supervising nursing education consultant, as well as the liaison for the Education Licensing Committee. So we're going to start with items covered in agenda item 8.1. Everything in 8.1 is treated as a consent agenda item unless a board member or a member of the public state that they would like to pull it out for more discussion. A list of schools and the associated motions can be found in the agenda item summary list in your materials on pages 4 through 7. So basically what we're saying is I gave you a summary of what happened at the Education Licensing Committee in the materials, pages 4 through 7. And all of these were unanimously voted to move forward to you in consent.
Any board members have questions on 8.1? I'd like to make a motion to I'm sorry, my eyesight, the recommendations of the Education and Licensing Committee of all items contained in 8.1. Do I have a second?
I second that.
Thank you, Tricia.
Mm-hmm.
Win. May we go to public comment, BR moderator? Thank you.
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in the request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment."
This is the chance for members of the public to pull out any school listed in item 8.1. There's quite a few schools listed there, so just wanted to make that comment since it's a consent agenda item.
Committee Chair Dominguez, there are no public requests for comments on the WebEx. Do we have any in-person requests for comments there in BRN HQ?
Yes, we actually do.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Good afternoon, President Lawler, board members, and EO Melby. My name is Jerry Nye, and I serve as the director of the ADN program at San Joaquin Delta Community College in Stockton. On behalf of Delta College, our Dean Lisa Lucchesi, our faculty, students, staff, and clinical partners, I want to sincerely thank the board in advance for approving our request to expand the HOPE program. This approval means a great deal to our college and to the communities we serve. The Helping Our People Elevate, it's an acronym, program represents more than an enrollment increase. It's a partnership-centered response to the nursing workforce shortage in San Joaquin County and the surrounding region. It allows us to prepare more qualified nursing students while maintaining the quality, safety, and integrity expected of a BRN-approved nursing program. We recognize that expansion must be done responsibly. Delta College remains committed to appropriate clinical placement, student support, and following the BRN regs. We also understand the responsibility that comes with this approval and will continue to work closely with our hospitals and the BRN to ensure that our students are prepared to provide safe, compassionate, and competent nursing care. Most importantly, this decision creates opportunity. It creates opportunity for our local students. We have graduated 100 plus HOPE students. This is our cohort 7 involving 4 hospitals, now including Kaiser Central Valley. We thank you again for your confidence in Delta College and for your continued work in protecting the public while supporting responsible nursing education in California. We're grateful for this approval and look forward to continuing this important work.
Thank you. Member Nguyen?
I know this is public comment, but I do really want to thank you for being here today. And the HOPE program is a very impressive program, and your proposal was very modest and respectful of your community. So it was a pleasure doing work with you. Thank you.
Thank you for your
Any
comment.
other members, board members? I'd like to vote yes. Dominguez votes yes. President Lawler?
Lawler, yes.
Vice President Patel?
Patel, yes.
Member Nguyen?
Nguyen, yes.
And Member Granowitz?
Granowitz, yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Agenda item 8.3 is the discussion and possible action regarding outstanding.
One second,
I'm
really
sorry.
quick, Dr. Marianne
Number
McCarthy.
2.
Let me
Sorry.
address, 8.2. Thank you.
8.2.
8.2, no.
Sorry, thank you. 8.2. Point 1 is the discussion and possible action regarding a request to grant an exception of a feasibility study for a new program. This was Chamberlain University Baccalaureate Degree Nursing Program for their secondary site in Carlsbad. Now, Chamberlain came forward in the May of 26 to the ELC agenda for a secondary site in Carlsbad. The ELC deferred Chamberlain's request to this board meeting. However, following the May ELC meeting, Chamberlain reached out to their NEC stating, after careful consideration of the committee's concerns and feedback, Chamberlain has determined that they will withdraw the Carlsbad application from the BRN consideration at this time. So if you look in the packet on page 103, you'll see their letter that they sent in looking at other options and opportunities, pulling Carlsbad at this time.
I do want to make one comment on their letter, just for clarification. It said that they would pursue the recommendation of the ELC to expand their LA campus. That was not a recommendation made by the ELC. We asked if your clinical placements were in LA, why did you not consider growing in LA? And that we'd be happy to look at them if they did a request, but it was not a recommendation. Just wanted to make that very clear. Thank you.
So Jovita, I do not think we need to have a a motion or anything like that, but we need to go to public comment.
Oh, okay, thank you for the guidance. Beyond, oh,
I
sorry.
don't think we need to go to public comment because we're not hearing this item. This
Okay.
item is
There
not
you
being
go.
heard or asked, so I don't think we need to go to public comment, but I want to make sure that Reza agrees with that. This was supposed to be where the committee recommended that the board make the decision on the enrollment increase. However, between committee and board, the school decided not to pursue it. So we're requesting to pull it off the agenda.
Yeah, our standard is to provide comment, public comment for every item that's discussed by the board. So being that we're only discussing why this item's not being discussed. So I think we can go ahead later on if anyone has comments on 8.2.1, as if we happen to have denied you that opportunity, feel free to chime in, but I think you can go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. Now I'm going to go to 8.3, which is the discussion and possible action regarding outstanding compliance issues with report out at each Education and Licensing Committee meeting and each board meeting. This is Pasadena City College Associate Degree Nursing Program. And board moderator, if you could please elevate the members on the list from Pasadena. So Pasadena City College is currently experiencing compliance issues related to the board's ongoing oversight and approval process. In January of 2025, their nursing education consultant began meeting with the nursing program administration to prepare for a routine continuing approval visit scheduled for March of 26. These meetings continued through October of 2025. In November of 2025, the program director informed the NEC that the dean was not permitting her to administer the program in accordance with BRN regulations. She also reported that she would be unable to provide the required documentation for both the BRN visit, nor will she be able to give the documentation to the ASIN accreditation team for their initial self-study. The NEC notified BRN leadership, and in October of 2025, BRN leadership and the NEC met with the college administration and at that time, the currently approved program director. During the meeting, the dean stated that the PD could not function according to board regulations because she was classified as a faculty rather than an administrator of the college. Due to this, the extensive nature of the item, the ELC has requested that Pasadena City College come to each ELC meeting and each board meeting to give a current update on the progress of the program under the leadership of a new program director. And that is who's here today.
I think we can. So just for background, in the materials, when you go to page 105, there is some bullet points that just show the work that has been done by the school since the May ELC meeting to date. This was extensively discussed at the committee, and it looks like the new program director is coming in and making some changes that were necessary in order for this school to function in accordance with BRN rules and regulations. So if you guys have any questions on the items that they've been working on, you can ask. They are here and available for discussion. And they are still slotted to come back to the next Education Licensing Committee and board until they're in compliance and we can do a follow-up visit.
Well, I am pleased to see these bullet points in the board material. I mean, it does show that they've gone a long way. I would just love for them to comment on anything that we should know, maybe that's not reflected or is kind of shorthanded here.
Do you want to say? Yeah. So this is Carol Friedman. I'm the new program director, and they're really, I am here to answer your questions or your concerns, but we are moving along with first of all curriculum, and we had a 2-day retreat with faculty on developing our curriculum to the standards of the BRN. We have a expert, if you will, Dr. Diane Breckenridge, who's been supporting us in this effort. We have opened our lab. We now have a lab tech. So we have skills lab and what else are we doing? And we are working on our evaluation plan as well with Dr. Breckenridge. So we are in the process of hiring a new clinical coordinator as well as a sim tech to come in and a full-time skills lab RN. So we are serving the students with having lab, other things that we weren't quite there at the time, but we have done that so far in the last month and a half.
Well, thank you very much. And I am, as I said, very pleased to see this progress. Would you please tell me, Ms. Riberas, are you now administering the nursing program, or is the dean still in charge of the program?
No, I am the director, the program director, Dr. Friedman.
And you have the authority?
Yes, I do.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry I had the wrong name. I was looking at the screen. Thank you very much, Dr. Friedman.
Yeah, you're fine. And then I also want to tell you that we're in the process of hiring faculty. So we are in the process of doing interviews right now and should be ready for the fall semester, which commences August 24th.
Thank you.
Any other board members? So do we go to public comment? Yeah. No voting, correct? BRN moderator, would you please take us to public comment?
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment." Committee Chair Dominguez, there are no public requests for comments on the WebEx. Do we have any in-person requests for comments in BRN HQ?
None, thank you.
Thank you. Would you like me to close this? No.
Yes, please.
Thank you very much. Agenda item 8.4 and 8.5 are information only. 8.4 is the NCLEX updates that we give at every board meeting. And the licensing update is also in your materials as well. Loretta, did you want to add anything about the information only?
No, I just want to open it up for board comment or discussion if they have anything on the licensing update or the NCLEX pass rate reports. Nope. So it is information only on 8.4 and 8.5. They are common reports that is in our materials. And so we can go to board comment for both of these agenda items.
Any concerns or statements? Do we go to, we must, okay. BRN moderator, would you take us to public comment, please?
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment."
And this is for agenda items 8.4 and 8.5, is that right?
Correct.
Thanks.
Committee Chair Dominguez, there are no public requests for comments on the WebEx. Do we have any in-person requests for comments in BRN HQ?
No, we do not.
Thank you. Would you like me to close this window?
Yes, please. And thank you, committee members, for May 13th. It was very busy.
Okay, moving on to agenda item 9.0, we'll hand it off to our chair for the report of the Enforcement and Investigation and Intervention Committee.
Great, thank you very much. So we'll move to item 9.1, which is discussion and possible action regarding appointments and reappointments of the Intervention Evaluation Committee members. So as you all probably remember, we have a subcommittee now that helps staff with interviews on potential members, but we don't interview if it's a reappointment. So we have not interviewed these three recommended members, but staff has been paying attention and they have been highly functioning board members. So we're nominating three members, Salma Khan, Alan Schneider, and Michelle Corcoran, to be reappointed as IEC members. And I would love to hear if there's questions or comments, and I would entertain a motion at this point.
I'll make a motion. Patel makes a motion to accept these members.
So that's to approve the IEC appointments and, well, it's just reappointments as presented in the board's agenda and material. So we have a motion by Vice Chair Patel and a second by Board Chair Lawler. We'll go out to public comment at this point. Board moderator, would you please take us to public comment?
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing in the question box, I would like to make a comment. I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, I would like to make a comment.
So since it's consent, do we go to public comment? Yeah.
Does anybody can over it out?
Thank you. Okay.
Committee Chair Nguyen, there are no public requests for comments on the WebEx. Do we have any in-person requests for comments in BRN HQ?
No, we do not.
Thank you. Would you like me to close this window?
Thanks very much. Yes, please close the window. Okay, so we'll go ahead and go to a vote. President Lawler, or Chair Lawler?
Lawler, yes.
President, Vice President Patel?
Yes, Patel, yes.
Nguyen, yes. Dominguez?
Dominguez, yes.
Granowitz?
Granowitz, yes.
So that motion carries and those three members are reappointed. We're going to move to item 9.2. So this is an information only item. We're going to take up the entire item, which is all of the updates. Any member is allowed to pull any one of these and we can have a report out here. But the committee heard all of these information only and had, no questions or comments. So is there any item that we'd like to pull out at this point and hear the information item? Okay, hearing none, I would be happy to accept a motion.
I move to accept the recommendations of the Enforcement Investigations and Intervention Committee.
Thank you very
David
much.
Lawler.
President Lawler, is there a second?
Jovita Dominguez seconds.
Okay, so a second by Dominguez. We'll go ahead to public comment. Public comment is allowed to pull any item off this kind of consent item or to comment on any item. Board moderator, would you please take us to public comment?
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing in the question box, I would like to make a comment. I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, I would like to make a comment. Committee Chair Nguyen, there are no public requests for comments on the WebEx. Do we have any in-person requests for comments in BRN HQ?
No, we do not.
Thank you. Would you like me to close this window?
Yes, please, and thank you very much. So that item, again, information only, so we're done, and with that, we're done with item 9.0.
Do we have to vote?
No, it was information only.
Or no, we had to set it, so we do have to vote on this one. I apologize.
Oh, except the, yes, okay. So we have a motion and a second. President Lawler?
Lawler, yes.
Vice President Patel?
Patel, yes.
Wynn, yes. Dominguez?
Dominguez, yes.
Granowitz?
Granowitz, yes.
Granowitz, yes. Okay, that item is finished. Thank you very much. Yeah, we'll get used to it.
Okay, now we're on to agenda item 10.0, which is going to move into closed session. The board will meet in closed session and we will close this out, and we'll meet tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Recess, I'm sorry, until tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. to do legislative committee. Thank you, everyone, for being here.